September 11th council meeting. Would you please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Then we can call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Burns.
Here.
Mr. Walters.
Here.
Ms. Bolton. Here. Ms. Meister. Here. Ms. Jennings.
We have a 4 present, that is a quorum. I need a motion to excuse Ms. Jennings from tonight's meeting. They had a death in the family and she could not be here tonight. So do I have a motion to excuse her absence?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Bolton and seconded by Ms. Meister. Is there any discussion? Penny, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton. Yes. Ms. Meister. Yes.
Before we begin the actual agenda tonight, I'd like to introduce to everybody our new village administrator, Justin Hadig. I might want to say a few words first, but I will let everybody know that's here tonight. All the background stuff is in from BCI like we said it would be. We will welcome him as our new administrator. And Justin, if you want to say a few words, I want you to say about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Justin Havig. It's my first week here, so I'm still getting my feet wet. I look forward to meeting everyone. Look forward to accomplishing a great deal with this council and addressing your issues. And I've spoken to some of you one-on-one. If at any time any citizen needs me, I can meet you at your house, or you can come to the office. I'll make myself available. Yeah, I appreciate being here.
Welcome, Justin. I'd also like to thank all the residents for showing up tonight for our meeting. If we need to bring in more seating, we can probably do that. Okay, in your packets, we have a motion to approve the council minutes from the August 14th, 2024 meeting. Yeah.
Do we need more seating?
Well, we got a couple more empty seats. No, you're fine. So, do I have a motion to approve the council minutes from the August 14th, 2024 meeting?
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Bolton, seconded by Ms. Meister. Is there any discussion on that? No discussion. Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton. Yes. Ms. Meister. Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. I'd also like to have a motion to approve the special council meeting minutes from August 26, 2024. That's also in your packet. Is there any discussion on that before I ask a motion? Mr. Walters.
A quick question with respect to the special meeting. Is that going to be any on the agenda this evening? Is there anything coming up?
None of that's going to be on the agenda.
And when will that transpire?
More than likely, it will happen at the next council. Any other questions? You have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'd like to approve the special meeting minutes from August 26th.
Motion made by Mr. Walters. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Meister. Any discussion? No discussion. Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton. Yes. Ms. Meister. Yes.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is we need to get a special meeting to interview our candidates for Mr. Williams' vacancy on council. Before we do that, I want to say a few words about Mr. Williams. He and I had a lengthy discussion. I'm sorry, thanks. but, because we still need to do the pay ordinances. But I want to say a few words about him first. Outstanding public servant, served well for this council for many years. One of the things that is difficult for our council members, all of our council members, is that they all have jobs except for Mr. Walters, full-time jobs. So it's very difficult for council members to be at this meeting and serving on two other committee meetings and special meetings. It just takes a toll. And I want to personally thank him for his service to this community. I think the residents will miss him. I know this council will miss him. If there's any other council members that would like to make comment about that, I would entertain. No further comments then. We're going to move on to what we should have been doing. Sorry. So, you have in your packet bills that were being paid for ordinance. I'm not sure what that number is. It's a little this morning. 9-2024. So in your packet, you have questions. Ms. Ozer, our fiscal officer, is here tonight. She can answer whatever questions you might have first.
I think that helps that I highlight some of it. A lot of this is just the normal utilities that I'm not gonna mark. I think you guys know that. Yeah, I'm sure.
Are there any more seats out here?
Cindy, are these all of the bills we talked about? This is from August 10th to the September 7th.
Am I missing a page then? Is it a two-page?
Look on the back, maybe.
Well, I've got fund balances.
Oh, there should be 2 pages.
I missed it. I think we're all missing things.
Oh,
We've got the fund balance, which
I sent it, but you have it. Penny, can you make this real quick? Yeah.
no, that's what we're missing.
Penny.
I'm gonna say, wow.
No,
Got a lot of
say,
bills to pay.
you said that I was They didn't get to the front page. The council one. I was like, huh?
I was gonna say, well, why can't I? No. I never got it either in 1 month.
What I did. I did on the
They're not too good. I thought there was some land there.
Jim, if you need other handouts. I hope we don't have enough copies.
I use it.
Well, while we're waiting, we go ahead and set our dates for the special council meeting while we're waiting. We check our calendars, and that way we can notify the candidates. We have 3 candidates for Mr. Williams and Spain. Those are Ted Babel, Mr. Ash, I think you're somewhere, yep, back here. And you have Mary Angelique. So we have 3 candidates that will be interviewing in a special council meeting. That's going to be scheduled here tonight. It's always difficult for us to get our calendars matched. So hopefully we'll be able to do that tonight.
I'm still looking at the week of September 16th.
It would be 23rd. So on Wednesday is out because of finance meeting.
I'm available that Tuesday night, the 24th, Thursday night, the 26th. The 27th or Saturday, the 28th. Not available for Monday night. Right. If it were a later meeting, but if you got interviews, you don't want to start it later, so. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That week, I'm good.
It's Tuesday, I have to be gone by 8 o'clock. So I prefer not that. But otherwise, I still manage windows.
I will be out of town. I'll be here the 23rd because I'm getting my setup. Trip. So, do you need a quorum?
We do need a quorum.
There's three, I guess three's a quorum. Jerry, you.
And the mayor.
As it stands now, Thursday, the 26th is okay with everyone. Did Shayla respond to any?
She's open pretty much everywhere that, as long as we don't start before 5.
It looks like the 26th is going to be a day to push everyone.
26th, what we're looking for.
Thursday, the 26th.
No conflicts with Thursday, the 26th. The time of this, or
She can't be here before 5:30, so
And I'm coming from Clifton and I get off at 5.
There's only 3 of them.
I could try to duck out early and get here by 5:30.
I cannot hear any earlier than 6:30.
Okay.
why don't we just look at, why don't we look at 6:45 or something? That be okay with everyone else? All right, so we're going to have a special council meeting at 6:45 on September 26th. 26th. Okay. We'll get a posting out. Penny, if you would, I'd like you to go ahead and coordinate the schedule to find out if anybody's not available, and then we'll finalize things and get it out to our council.
Can I
So, yeah, sure.
just want to clarify something because while you had made mention that I can make meetings, I am retired like Chuck as well, but my wife just retired, so it's kind of hard to, make those kind of arrangements.
Well,
So
don't you want an excuse to get out of the house?
we do get out of the house, we travel.
Yeah, but
We need to bring an extra chair in. Let's just do that. Oh, there's one back here. There's one in the back.
okay.
So that's kind of reasonable. Yep.
Understood.
Thank you.
You retire for a reason. Ask anyhow. All right, we're back on the questions about the pay.
Cindy, is there anything on here that needs our special attention?
No, and if I did, I would let you know. But no, that's why I marked the ones that I thought were important, that you knew, if it was waterworks or park or.
And then, are we having a breakdown of the solicitor's charges? Did we-
They've already been sent out to you individually, but in here tonight, probably not.
So I might have missed that either, and if I did, then I have to.
Probably.
His most recent bill we sent off.
Okay,
I can get the other ones if you need it, but we don't have it here tonight.
no, but I knew it was gonna be broken out more detail, that's all.
All right, if there's no questions on it, do I have a motion to approve pay ordinance number 9, 2020?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Bolton, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, I think by Mr. Walters. Any further question? With that, Penny, would you call the roll?
Mr. Brooks, Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is, and I've asked Eric Winheusen to be here most, I think this is probably the first time I've asked you to come. Eric used to come in and he would talk about the number of gallons. And quite frankly, there's better information I think he can provide. We're very fortunate to have him as our superintendent. And I also want to make a statement about the guy right there in the back in the yellow shirt, Rusty Alexander. Many people don't realize the amount of hours that he puts in repairing, even on vacation. In fact, the joke is whenever he goes on vacation, he's never on vacation. He's out on site repairing, and he contacts me regularly. And I know we talked about this the other day, Rusty, but initially we were worried about contacting me at 2:00 in the morning or whatever. And I got you past that. Now if I get you to stop calling me Mayor, start calling me Chuck, I'll be real happy. But you really have done a fantastic job. I appreciate everything you do in helping us notify residents, not only in the village of Cleves, but also all of Miami Township. And probably Whitewater Township too. So, and probably Crosby Township in some places. People don't realize just how much the water department does, and they tend to get more of the complaints than the positives. One example of that, you take a look at your water bill, which I got mine today. It's a bunch, but it's not water. It is sewage. And there's no way to get around that. So that is the Metropolitan Sewer District charge. If you break that out and you're just paying it directly to them, you have a real small bill. If you're not aware of why that came about, there was a consent agreement in Hamilton County and they were ordered to do certain things for major projects. And all they do is pass it on to the individual property owner. That's throughout all of Hamilton County, not just here in the village. So there's a number of things I've asked Mr. Winheusen to talk about tonight. A lot of things he's been involved in and updates that not only the community needs, but our council. So Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you. And once again, thank you for being here.
First, the down at the park, we're putting in 3 fountains. Right now, there is a 2 week before we get them. They originally told us 6 weeks. It's looking more like 7 or 8 now, but it's 2 more weeks and we'll have them. I anticipate having those in the ground and working a week after we get them. These are Murdoch fountains, which are excellent fountains. We ordered really good ones so they would hold up and we were not having to be down there repairing them all the time. The water lines are in, everything's ready to go. All we have to do is put the pad in now and put the fountain in. The hydrant backlog, that situation is caused by the fact that we can't order 10 fire hydrants and I'm lucky to get 2 6 months later. You just can't get them. We recently got some in, so we're going to be replacing some of the fire hydrants that need to be replaced. And all the ones that aren't replaced right now are due to, we work with the fire department and we prioritize what areas need it and what areas don't need it as much. So there's a priority list, and that's how we determine when and how we put, at the time we put them in. I think we have enough fire hydrants now to cover Cleves. Yeah, we've got enough to cover everything in Cleves, so in the next couple of weeks, hopefully that'll.
And that includes Walmsley Avenue.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, that's the next one we're gonna do as well, but that'll be the first one. I wasn't able to get any update from the landowner, on our property on Philby Road. Trying to, get out a, what do you call it?
Like a conservative.
Yeah, it's basically we would be on their deed in order to have the ability to say what's on that deed. And what we want to say is, if that land is not being farmed, it goes back to nature. It can't be used for railroad lines. It can't be used for anything. It's either a farm or it goes back to nature. We're still working on that. It's going to cost a pretty penny, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Why is that important, that Blue Lion sharing the public way?
You wanna protect your well field any way you can. 30 years ago, we started looking for a new well field because of the Chevron situation. And we weren't able to find anything in Cleves. The fact that we weren't able to find anything in Cleves makes it much harder for us to tell people in that area what they can and can't do. We can't put an overlay on it, we can't, not Cleves, Whitewater County. The best thing to do with it is either buy the land, which is very expensive, or try to get on the deed, and it's a lot cheaper just to get something on the deed, which we're trying to do with the 90 acres behind that property. Gotta protect your water. I mean, that's all there is to it. If you don't have water, you're totally in control. Somebody else is totally in control. You're not in control of anything.
Want to talk, are you gonna talk at all about the forever chemical?
Oh, sure, yeah. Right now, the federal government is, they call it UCMR, an unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. Right now, the federal government is trying to figure out how they're gonna handle these forever chemicals. It's a problem. They're man-made. The biggest problem with them is they don't break down like natural chemicals do. And if it ends up in the water, it's very expensive to remove. So, you either go to another source. No matter how you have to handle it, it's expensive, very expensive. Just a matter of fact, this morning I got our third test kit from the federal government. We've tested twice for these chemicals already. We got lucky enough to be named one of the small systems that they were going to test for us for free. So, and that's how they gather all their information on how they're going to figure out how this rule is supposed to be, or how they want it to look. So we were lucky enough to get on that. We've gone through 2 of their testing so far, and nothing has been found as far as forever chemicals. Which is
Cancer.
Yes, exactly. And like I said, I got the third one. I don't know how many more are coming. They haven't told me. They'll decide when they're done. I don't decide that. I just keep them told on in the situation. But yeah, I got the third one. I'm supposed to send it out the 23rd or the 24th of this month. And the last few times it took about a month to get the results back. So keep fingers crossed. The first 2, they didn't find anything. Excellent. Yes.
So with this class of compounds, is it expected to be I forget the order of the words, but like a point source of contamination, or is it supposed to be environmental runoff from
Point
human
4,
excretions, or?
most of it comes from factories and airports, believe it or not. That's where most of these chemicals are coming from. Not very many factories in the area, so that's a plus. We don't have an airport anywhere here. That's another plus. These chemicals are all over the place. They're in our clothes. They're in everything nowadays. They're all man-made, and that's what makes them so horrible. Another new thing they're doing with this rule is we're going to parts per trillion now instead of parts per billion, which is I can't even, figure out how they even test that. Layman's term, a part per billion is 1 second in 32,000 years. That's what 1 part per trillion is. That's a minor, but that's one of the things they've already decided they're taking this rule, and it's going to be a parts per trillion rule. So, pretty safe as possible to be. Obviously, they should.
Do you have anything else you want to say, or can we open it up for questions?
We can open up for questions, yeah.
Anybody in the audience or council, maybe council first? You want to ask any questions?
The land that the well field is on, that's Pope's property.
No, the well field is on Village Cleves property. There's 45 acres, Village Cleves on. I'm talking about the land that's behind that, between the river and our property.
And that's Pope's property.
Correct.
And is Pope aware of what you're trying to do?
Oh, yeah, we've had several talks about it. We're talk money and talk all those sort of things. So we're pretty deep into it. I think he's out of town this week. That's why I didn't get an update from him this week. We're down to Borders, so So, I ask you a question. You wanna buy the property? No, I don't wanna buy the property. I wanna buy the rights to the deed that I can put on the deed that you're not allowed to make a gravel mine, put up a factory, whatever.
Oh, okay, so it would go back,
And Mr. Pope will still own that property. It would just be on the deed. Anybody who bought the property thereafter.
could not go in and build a gravel pit just like they did on Wall Street.
Right.
They can't come in and buy the property and gravel.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to own any property. I'm just looking for
Right.
control, a little bit of control.
water
Correct.
from somebody coming in and building.
Exactly right.
Any other questions from council on any of the projects or anything?
Now, one other thing. Mr. Pope leases that land out to grow corn on, right?
Correct.
Now, do you know what kind of fertilizer
Yes, I do.
he's using on that corn? And at what time? Is he using Monsanto or
No, he's not using anything from Monsanto. He's using the nitrate.
just a raw nitrogen? Okay, now could that be put on there too? If somebody purchases that land, they can't go to a Monsanto chemical?
Well, we can put all kinds of different things on there as much.
Right now in upstate Ohio, they're having a big problem with that fertilizer they use. They destroyed that guy's farm.
Yeah.
Cause they made him use it. And that's the BPA's and all the stuff you're talking about. And it got into their waterworks and now they can't get it out.
Well, yeah, it's in, you're not getting it out. Yep. No, I totally agree with you. That's something to look at. Yes. Thank you. I didn't even think of that, but you're right.
I mean, if somebody buys it, farms it, they throw something on there that we can't accept, even though the wells are 45 or whatever.
Yeah, they're 135 feet deep. All three of them.
Yeah, but
Oh, no, I'm not saying that's guaranteed. You're right.
ain't guaranteed anything.
Yep, you're right. That's why we have to protect it.
Any other questions on the water lines or anything like that? Before it goes, I want you to know I've had some extensive conversations with the environmental professionals.
I got one more question. I'm sorry.
That's not a problem. We're here for it.
Is there kind of a record of when the fire department does check the hydrants?
Yes.
Because the last time they checked the hydrants, and it's on Walmsley, I know we got one out of commission out of Walmsley, but the next one down right beside my house. I don't know if she opened it up far enough, but there wasn't no water coming out.
You know, far enough, I'll check it after that.
Yeah, it's already been checked and it's fine.
Okay,
I took the outer service tag off of it.
the one right there in front of Cliff's house,
It's not the first one, but the second one.
the second one,
Yeah.
down before you go.
Right by the boat harbor marina.
I just wanted to know because,
Yeah,
like I said, that affects my homeowner.
Sure. No, I totally understand it and I'm sorry we haven't replaced it yet, but we finally got some in. And we're going
Is there a maintenance log on them? Yes, is there a log that the fire department does open them up periodically?
They do it twice a year, spring and fall.
Could it be done a little
They
bit?
don't.
The fire hydrant is really not like a faucet. You don't want to open it
Right.
17 times without having to do it because you're just going to break.
Yeah, you're gonna break the plug too?
Yeah, and you just don't want to do it too often. So that pretty much twice a year, spring and fall is standard.
Okay.
And the fire hydrants, national average is twice a year.
I, just wanted to make a comment, because I have had extensive calls into the EPA. And we're very fortunate. You want to talk about somebody who's well respected with the EPA, we're looking for this man right here. We're very fortunate to have him here as our superintendent. And Rusty, you want to say something?
I'll
'Cause I
second.
heard you know.
No, I'll second that comment.
Oh, okay. Any other comments? Eric, Rusty, you want to leave? You go right ahead. I want to stay too.
Oh, one other question.
No.
You don't put fluoride on.
Yes, we do. I'm required to by the EPA. I've been fighting it, I've been trying to find it out. I've been trying to, I can't,
Don't they know that that's cancer causing substance?
I totally agree with you. I didn't want to put it in to begin with, but
You gotta put fluoride on water.
yes, I did.
Then you call the BPA up, and check them out for the 13 parts per billion. Cause I'll show you everything in the world. Where it comes from.
I know exactly where it comes from and I totally agree with you. And I talk to them every time I see them.
Well, it's either gonna mandate that you gotta do something, but yet they're gonna mandate for the cancer causing substance in our water.
But agree with you more. If I don't put it in, I lose my license, I lose my job. That's what it boils down to.
Well, we'll have to change that.
Yeah,
We're a village. Well, we're not a dictatorship.
So you have to follow federal law. And if they're telling you to put it in, I don't think as a village, you can say, oh, well, we're not gonna do it.
Well, we're not the United
They could
States.
shut it down.
Do we have a right? Do we have a right? We have a right. This is our right.
Okay, let's move on.
Move on.
Very good.
Russell, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you, guys. See you
Bye,
later.
Russ.
Appreciate it. Good night.
Don't you want to come to all our meetings? I would love there.
Now, this one probably is gonna, the reason I put public comments after the maintenance department report is because probably the majority of you here are tonight are interested in our roads. And John, I went through a rather extensive list of things for you to talk about here today, so if you forget, I'll remind you, okay? Would you come up, please, so everybody can hear you and see you, especially on video? And by the way, the Kevin, or you see Kevin Richardson, that really needs to be under yours and not on the agenda.
That is, so.
um,
I want to introduce council to our new full-time employee, Kevin Richardson. He started, on Monday.
Yes.
And, Tuesday. And,
And he's still here.
and he's still here.
We haven't run him on.
Well, you know, he's still got time.
He's smiling.
So, but anyway, so I started and, seems to be working out very well.
Okay.
We had, our new pickup truck was finally delivered. It was being held hostage because we couldn't get a snowplow for it. After many demands, I made them to find a different vendor for snowplow, and they found another vendor that put another model snowplow on there. And, so we were able to get that truck.
You want to tell them how long ago it was that was approved by council?
That was, back in February of 2020. 2020. And, it was supposed to be delivered, the week after Thanksgiving or the 1st of December of 2023. And then the problem with snowplow. And it's still existing today. They still haven't received those snowplows. I received a estimate to stabilize the gazebo and install a sidewalk up to the gazebo. The total for that would be, that would be $10,800.
And we were looking at that as a potential way to use grant money that we've got, correct?
That's correct, yes.
It's money that we have to spend before the end of the year or we lose it. And it's,
No good money.
yes, it's supposed to be spent on parks.
And,
So that's why we're looking at that right now.
so we kind of shied away from putting a foundation wall underneath it and went to topsoil. Topsoil is less invasive. We don't have to move it, the gazebo again. And, so the contractor was very, very adamant that we could, get this stabilized, put the topsoil underneath it. And then also, running a sidewalk from Main Street up with a couple walk easy steps. They would be kind of low profile and then longer step. I'm still waiting for the electric, estimate to come in from, Queen City Electric. They were there Monday, it finally showed up on Monday. So he said he would have it in on camera.
Is that the only estimate we're getting?
That's the only estimate we have left. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is the estimate for the part of the gazebo. We just need the electric.
I got it. But you're going to get one estimate for the electric?
Yes, that's correct.
Couple bids.
We don't need to go out. We don't have to. If
you want to put it out for bids, it's gonna cost.
No, we don't need to go out for bids, but you could get more than one estimate.
I could do, that, yes. Do you want another estimate on that?
No, I'm just, when you said we're waiting on it, I just wondered if you had other ones already or.
No, that was, I anticipate the estimate to be $5,000 to $6,000.
For the electric.
For the amount. Yes, that's the same company.
Oh, okay,
They bought out Queen City.
okay. Because they've also done a lot of our electrical
Yes,
work
and
and
that's
done us. good deal.
who.
Okay,
So they've got to come out of the building, out of the existing electrical box, and then, run new one, and then, branch off and put in, outlet for a Christmas tree that they want to put in there. And then, lighting on the gazebo and then whatnot.
How much money did we get from the COVID for this project? How much do we have to spend?
The balance is $39,987. That has to be used this year.
Do we have other plans to use the rest remaining, or sounds like this isn't gonna take the whole amount? Right?
well, we've been in discussion about potentially upgrading and making renovation changes to this skate park, removing the skate equipment and possibly throwing in something else that the kids could enjoy or whatever. It's a constant topic in the park and the finance committee. But we're just trying to identify the more pressing needs, and we are pretty committed to spending it and not having to give it back.
Thank you.
As part of our initiation, getting into the stormwater district, I had a contractor come out and give me some estimates to flush the catch basins and mainline sewer and all the lateral pipes that are with it on, that would be from Porter and Lair over to Martha and Porter. There's a map attached with this estimate. It was $5,200 to do that. Would take about 2 days for the contractor to do that in his estimate.
And these are catch basins.
He clean the catch basins, the lateral pipes that come out of them, that go into the manhole, and then from the manhole, clean the whole line from manhole to manhole. Main line will be.
And once we have this done, then we can maintain it
Then we can-
ourselves from then on.
That's correct, yes. That's what the plan is, once we get it done,
Okay.
to take care of it in.
You're not asking for approval on this, tonight.
No, well, it'd be nice, but no.
Well, I think they probably need to digest. it.
Okay, sure.
And I would also, if I may comment. For those of you that are not aware, we now have our own stormwater district. That was a result, I believe, back in in the wrong century. In 2014, there was a decision by the village council, not this village council, but to withdraw from the Hamilton County Stormwater District. We're going to have to create a fund eventually. That's how the rest of Hamilton County does it. And it's a very small amount of fee. We're just not sure where it's gonna go yet. But it's designed to pay for this type of stuff that right now the village doesn't have. So from 2014 up to 2022, I believe, that's when I think Mr. Radall was notified by the EPA. There really wasn't a whole lot done. These catch basins were not being maintained properly. We gotta make sure that we maintain them properly. For those that do not know, I don't care whether it's Finley Street or it's Porter Street, when those things are not draining properly, you have flooding down, and the homeowners have to deal with it. John and his crew now have to go out and they have to not only inspect them, but they also have to go to all the outflows. And then we have to document that. April 1st, we'll be sending on a report to the EPA. We can talk about the federal government all you want. Quite frankly, we don't have control over that. They basically tell us what we gotta do, and gonna have to do. So even, we're gonna be talking more later on about the Morgan Creek ditch. But, that will come at a later time. John, you got anything?
For the past 7 years that I know of, the maintenance department's been operating on a very low, internet speed. As a matter of fact, it hasn't been, noticeable that bad in previous years, but since we've got these crosswalk lights and the radar signs, those are all done on the internet, and I cannot operate those radar signs and stuff properly with the low internet. As a matter of fact, when we had the radar signs put up, it was supposed to populate on the screen a map of where those two radar signs are. It wouldn't even come up. The company that I was having a online training session with, they thought it was their equipment. That it wasn't coming up. It was mine. So that's supposedly gonna be fixed next week.
You're upgrading, correct? Upgrading your
Yes.
internet
Yeah.
capability.
Let me just comment on that for a second, because I'm gonna disagree with you on one thing. For those of you that don't realize it, there's a lot of work that he has to do on here. And, there were workers complaining about how much time he would spend on the computer. I want to take you back to memory lane, AOL dial-up. That was the speed he had, 1 megabit per second. We're now talking about gigs per second. And those radar signs do more than just do radar. They do traffic studies too. We will know how many people are speeding. We will know the time of day that they're speeding, the number of cars that go through that area. And if you're not aware of people speeding in the village, they are. And whether that's gonna slow them down or not, I can't speak to that. But we're trying to get a sense where we bring the awareness up, because people do run the traffic lights and they gun it, okay, right past the school and also down on South Miami. It just happens. So we're trying to make it safer for everybody, including with the new push button. I saw a kid going across here the other day, didn't realize there was a button there yet. So we're gonna have to educate them.
I saw one too down by Westgate.
Yeah.
We
So,
stood there waiting, looking both
Yeah.
ways. I wanted to roll the window down and say, push the button.
so anyhow, those are some of the things John's been working on. And then, are you ready to go on to the road projects here?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right, I want John to take a little time explaining how this process works, because quite frankly, I was out telling people when I was delivering notices, many of you probably got those. I was probably giving incorrect information. I didn't really understand something. I thought, for example, on the grants, the income level, for example, of Edgefield prevented us from getting that. John told me today that's not accurate. And so I want him to take some time, not only for you as citizens, but also for our council members. John, go for it.
So, getting to the point of Edgefield, I used to be on that support staff that did the inspection for the roads for the grants for OPWT. And when you get a packet for a road project, you go out and you look at the road. You look at the curbs, if the curbs are increased. You don't look at, nothing has nothing to do with the housing, how expensive they are. It has nothing to do with that. It looks what the condition of the road is and the type of project that you're doing for that road. So if you're doing Edgefield may not get a grant. The reason is it's only a rehab. A rehab is just going in and milling the surface 2.5 inches and putting down another 2.5 inches of new asphalt. That's all you're doing to that road. Walmsley was a topic that came up. Walmsley would be a total reconstruction. You take the road up, you put curbs in, and then you put new road, a whole new road bed back down, gravel, and then, 6 inches of asphalt.
Would that include the aprons in the driveway?
Yes,
Yeah, because when they did Westgate, that happened.
yeah, because when you do curves, you'll have to, when you go to a stand-up curve, 6-inch curve, type 6 curve, you have to put in new aprons, because it's a different style apron than what was out there originally. And then on Walmsley,
We still have.
We don't have
some
ours.
it's not very wide. It doesn't have a very wide right of way. So a few years ago, I had JMA give me an estimate to do a grant with Walmart. JMA went out and looked. There's some tight areas there. If we put in curb, there would be no parking on the street. We couldn't,
Nothing there.
we'd almost not be able to put
We're okay
parking
with
on the
that.
street.
We're okay with that, when there's only one house that ain't got a driveway.
Because when you take and put a type 6 curb up, you can't pull off the street like they are now. You know, they're pulling onto the sidewalk and keeping out of the roadway to make sure that their mirrors don't get knocked off or something like that. The cost for Walmsley up to the boathouse, up the boat storage, $1 million.
And that was 2 years
Where you
ago,
gonna, you know, so you'd have to file a grant. And OPWC, which that road would probably do very well
I'm sure it would.
because of the condition of the road and the type of project that you're doing. But the village has to have the money to match that. We can't just go and ask for $1 million from OPWC to do that project. We have to put something to that.
Exactly.
And the more
which
you
is-
put to that, the better it looks for the grant.
Is
Go
that not the same amount of what you're gonna be putting in on Edgefield and Lower River? We've not had our road replaced in 36 years. We still have telephone poles in our road. We have 3-foot sidewalks that you can't walk down. We have no curbs.
And the thing about it is we're all taxpayers, all
Exactly.
taxpayers. So they're actually talking like, okay, our road's $1.5 million.
No, $1 million.
$1 million, okay? And that's digging the whole road up, putting a new road base in, putting the 6 inches of blacktop plus the curb, right?
Right.
It's only $1 million. Do I not pay my taxes?
Well,
we're-
after
we're
36 years,
looking-
do we
we're
the
looking
people
at,
on that
like,
road not
Walmsley
need a
ain't
new road?
been done in
36 years.
36 years. But yet they'll go right behind Bassett and put a brand new alley
And with curbs.
That that was a community block grant money that was going to expire. And that money was given to the village as a grant. And with that grant, it only lasts for so many years. They were gonna use it, I forget what the original. project-
Originally, it was supposed to be done with our road. That is when Duke Energy put the gas lines in and said the village had already had the money approved to do our road. That they
is
would
true.
start it
Now-
in the spring. We talked to 2 different people up there, said they were giving bids.
With the $1 million up to the boat, what is it,
You're probably gonna
so you're
spend,
going right to my house.
you're probably, if you go all the way up to the triangle, up to Harrison, you're probably talking another $800,000.
But it's gonna take 30 years to pay back Edgefield's loan, you know, to show that we can actually repay a loan. Why don't we just go ahead and spend the money and we'll pay 30 years paying back our road that ain't even been done in 30 years.
36.
Oh, 30. I mean, we could have done had our road repaid for.
In fact, last winter, our road wasn't even plowed all the way down, and we were told it was because of the potholes. It would tear the road up more.
Yeah, that's why they wouldn't.
Pretty soon, we're gonna be walking on dirt up there. I can already show you pictures. I got grass growing everywhere in the road.
And the potholes are so big enough that when walking down the street, you're gonna fall into a pothole, and not only you're gonna be paying a lawsuit for somebody falling into a pothole.
And breaking the
In
name.
the little bitty patch shops, everybody knows that if you run up the little cold patch in it, as soon as the cold weather hits, it happens in
It'd
Cincinnati
have
every
been
day.
got broad enough to patch the hole.
We're coming down here tomorrow to do it.
I've been told that
Okay,
since May.
Tomorrow.
I've been told that.
Well, you
since
might as
May.
well do
I never said tomorrow.
you might as well spend the $1 million, because you're gonna need $1 million worth of.
Respectfully, I don't think these questions are for John. We're talking finances, and that doesn't have anything to do with our service director. John does a
It
great
just
job.
seems like a conflict of
Yes.
interest because our mayor lives in Coleman Woods
Well, there's a lot of people that.
and he Well, it's He not- can't I guess pay the only off of question making is- sure.
The
The
only
only
thing,
question is who chooses what roads get done.
that's a good question. So the only thing that I was asking, let's keep our questions for the service director operational. If you have finance related questions, we'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay, so you just told us it's gonna take $1.8 million, or 1 point,
$1 million, not
well, that's only up to the boat.
Correct.
Go
How
on
many
up,
do we know for the moment?
are we gonna do away with the Y at the top of the hill?
That would be an engineering thing that they would have to design into, and that was a question that came up when the engineer was looking at, what are we gonna do with the Harrison Avenue intersection right there?
Yeah.
Because it is, Harrison up is up so high,
Right,
and so there's no way to alleviate the height of it. So the only thing you can do, we could take out the triangle and put in a wider stop or something that would be a little bit easier for traffic to come in and out.
Don't we just make it a one-way?
That was
Big
discussed
enough
with
to
the
be
fire department, and the fire department didn't think it was necessary to make it a one-way street. Which way you're gonna make it? I know one thing that did come up in a council meeting several years ago, which way do you go one way? You know, you might go to work and go down to South Miami, and then 4 or 5 people might go the other way, to Harrison to get out to go to work. So if they were going to Harrison Avenue, they'd have to go all the way around and go by St. Joseph Church and get on Harrison and go that way. So there's a problem with that.
You forgot about Ridge.
Yeah, you can go to Ridge too, like it's an easy draw. It's
So
go,
irritating.
I prefer to drop down.
You would have to go one way from the boat marina, and have to go one way down, because you're never gonna get no more boats up through there, and it is a business. So, there again.
That's,
My boat goes both ways.
I don't have control over it.
Okay, I'm good, so you're not, your guy that does the work, or gets the bids out, tells us what, so it's $1,800,000.
$1 million.
John, would you explain the difference between the estimate and the bidding process, because we're using the wrong terminology.
The estimate, an estimate is through the engineer's office. They make a design.
Right.
Bidding, when it goes out to bid for the project, we get the grant.
I'm in construction, I know.
So we put it in the newspaper that we're accepting bids for the road project. Contractors, we have a certain date that we open the bids, and then all the bids come in, and then we open the bids, and then the person with the lowest bid gets the contract.
Well, can't you do up to like the top of the hill? And then do from the top of the hill to the boat marina, all in stages? Wouldn't that cheapen the bill?
Well, sure, it would cheapen the bill, but it's going to create more inconvenience for the homeowners. Because then you're gonna have to,
Well,
you know,
they got
because
four-wheel drive,
once you open up the road, you can't drive over that road, because you're gonna be down.
Exactly, and you're gonna be down that far, but then you can drive from the top of the hill so far down. And then from there, so far up. After the road. If you're gonna inconvenience most people, if you do from the bottom of the hill to the boat marina, that's the most inconvenient, that's out. Then after that, they can turn around at the boat marina, go back down the hill after it's done. And then start from the marina up.
Well, let me just intervene for a second. We're getting into a lot of things that quite frankly have never been funded. Part of the problem, okay, is the fact that the Wellesley project, to my knowledge, Jerry, you were on council, Kevin, you were on council. The rest of us were not. Was this ever discussed in the open?
Walmsley has been discussed in open meetings. At one point, there was discussion about making it a one-way. The fire department was involved, the police department at the time, they gave their recommendations. There were many residents that felt either way. I remember one of the issues, big issues that was brought up when we discussed making it a one-way was the boat marina and then hauling the boats in and out. And the ability of the top of Walmsley where it meets Harrison, the inability to get the boats up or coming down that way. That was one of the main interfering reasons of it not becoming a one-way.
Were there ever any discussions within the last 3 years that dealt with financing, going after a grant? Did that ever happen?
Not in the last 3 years, that is not. That's my
I just want to, I'm pretty sure you're accurate. John, I asked that question today. I'd like you to explain what you were told.
Well, that's why I had JMA out there getting an estimate for the road to start a grant process. And then, the village administrator at the time, Mr. Ray Hall, said, "Stop, that's too expensive. We don't know where we're gonna get the money to match it." So that's where that process stopped. That's why JMA was out there getting that estimate to start the road, to start a grant.
And that is after
Can
Duke
you
Energy
shut-
come in
Oh,
and
yeah.
tore up the road, put brand new gas lines in,
And Joanne built 3 houses.
and they built 3 new houses up there, never fixed the road after that. Cause they tied into the sewers.
No, because Duke Energy got stuck with a lot of blacktop. That big square in front of my house all fell apart when they touched it. It wasn't supposed to.
But, and so there was an estimate, you had them come out and determine that it was too much money, or they determined,
It wasn't me that determined.
it was the village council. They
No,
determined
No,
that-
it's a-
It was not the village
administrator.
council, apparently
It was not, it didn't even go to council. It was done internally. That was, denied to be,
Was that run to the council's attention?
It was not, at that time, no, to the best of my knowledge, it was not ever brought to us.
So he determined that it was too expensive and shut it down right then and there before bringing it up to council, which is, this is a meeting of forum. So he shut it down right then and there without even advising the council that it was 1,800,000.
One of the main duties of a village administrator is a street commission. When you bring in a village administrator, you eliminate the water board and you eliminate a street commission. So part of his responsibility as a village administrator now is the street commissioner. And I recently asked Chuck, because we have formed planning and zoning boards. Me and Shayla were no longer needed as a zoning committee member. I suggested to Chuck that we start a street committee. Shayla agreed to sit on it. We were gonna see if we want another council person or a member of the public to sit on it, so that we can start evaluating every street in the village and what the needs might be, because we are just starting from scratch here. And
So then can we go to JMA and see exactly what all roads in the village since they've
that's
done
what
that
we're,
for
that's
30
what
years
we're planning on
have
doing.
been done and which ones have not?
Well, what we're doing now is trying to get a level of a grade on each road. Because you can say, well, that hasn't been done in 36 years, but there might be a road that was actually fixed 20 years ago that's in a lot worse condition.
No.
So what I wanna see is each street, and I wanna see what JMA is grading each of our streets. That's the first start. That's how you begin to decide what you're gonna do moving forward. But we do have to figure out how we're gonna finance them.
So then before we do any of this with Edgefield or Lower River, should we not walk all these roads and see which one really is the worst?
Well, that's council's job, and that's something that we're gonna look into doing.
Got another question.
But I can just tell you that
So
we have to look at our finances. We've had a levy fail for three times in a row, our levy has failed. So we've got to look at the whole big picture. Do residents, for whatever reason, it was a general fund levy, which where our seed money would come out of that. Any seed money to match a street levy. And when I was here, we did a lot of streets, so I remember this. But we recently have had a general fund levy that has failed 3 times. So is that the residents telling us, we don't want to pay any more taxes?
No, that was residents hated the last mayor.
Well,
And
whatever the
zoning.
reason,
And his
our
wife
levies
was
failed. So we are also discussing potentially whether or not it would benefit us to put a street levy on versus a general fund levy. Because you also get extra points, if I know correctly. When you submit these things, if your community has invested and they've invested and said, we care about our streets, we've got a street levy, you get extra points for that. And we used to have one, and we had a lot of problems over the years with people, they wanted their taxes lowered. And the council at the time agreed to let the street levy roll off. And that's why we lost we had, was it 2 mil, 2.5, 3 mil, 2 mil?
2.5, I think it was 2.5.
Okay.
2.5 mil.
So there is an advantage to us really looking at this overall financial picture and deciding whether or not it makes sense to come back to the voters for a potential street levy instead of a general fund levy. But we're looking at all of that in finance, and we're trying to figure out what's the best path forward. We understand we used to fix at least one street a year. And we have to get back on a program. We just have to. And you can take loans out over 30 years. We've done that. We're paying on some loans right now. But we're definitely looking at this. This isn't something that is not on our radar.
Well, it's irritating to the people on Walmsley whose
I'm
street ain't
sure.
been done in 36 years and to see a post by the mayor that they have Ridge, they have Harrison, they have Cleves, they have Miami, they have Maine, and they have Morgan. Hello, you passed over Walmsley and you passed over Locust. Neither of which have ever been done, but we all still pay taxes.
Well, we rely very heavily on our engineers and their recommendation. And we're all new. I've been here 8 months, 9 months.
Right.
So
But
there's a
honestly,
bunch of us
I-
trying to get a handle on something that has not been done for years.
But who is the one who picks the roads that are getting done that we're asking for the funding for?
Well, I believe Lower River Road has an $87,000 municipal grant that goes toward that road. That's one reason I believe Lower River Road was chosen.
And how'd they get that? Who asked for
It
that?
was a municipal road grant that was given.
It came through Hampton County. Hampton County heard we were looking. Lower River Road is a county road. In the municipality, and we're responsible to maintain it. So when the county heard that we were looking to possibly get a grant for Lower River Road, they came up and said, we'll put $87,500.
So then let me ask you, you were looking to get a grant for Lower River Road for what reason? Where is it in worse shape than Walmsley?
No, hold on.
It takes more traffic.
No, it does not. You ain't sat on our road.
I believe you had a question in the back, sir.
Yes, so I'm for getting Edgefield fixed. Okay, so I know that you're saying it doesn't qualify for, how much does it cost to fix that?
$300,000.
$300,000. How do we get that money if we're never gonna be qualified for it?
Well, that's where,
I mean, how do we go about, how do we find financing? Because at some point, that's gonna become, when it becomes a safety issue, where it becomes impassable. Because in the winter, steep grade, can't plow effectively. I know the plows won't work over that at some point, they go on. I mean, that's out a terrible spot, always wrecks there when the road gets bad. So my question is at what point does it become a priority where it is eligible for that? Because it's a safety issue.
well,
And how do we get funding?
when we submit the grant to OPWC, they come out and they look and the county looks at it and says, no, this road doesn't qualify for a grant.
This round.
So this time they said, would you take a loan for 30 years at 0%? Would you take a loan to do that road? And that way, your $300,000, they would spread that over 30 years and it gets paid twice a year. That month.
John, explain to them though, there's no automatic approval on that.
No,
No, I know.
The
I'm
money
just-
has,
just
you know,
wondering, you know, if it was, in order to pass, I don't know what the cost of that last pass that was done was.
no, it's about $150, $200, something like that.
Right, so I guess my question is that money, that 39,000 we using for the Evo and stuff, is that stuff, no, over there, no, that shit's in the.
That's for, it's for park
Oh, okay,
related
all right,
items, so that's
I'm
all.
just wondering if that's fundable that way. So, but it doesn't matter that it gets to a point of impassability. And at that point, if we allow that to degrade, that allow us to say, we're gonna put that gate up. We want to be able to move out other ways that if that road's impassable in the winter.
When they come out and evaluate the road,
I don't live there. I'm starting at my point. I'm sorry.
Apparently,
They do
no,
have
no,
safety
I'm
items.
just showing
I'm
you.
sorry, I'm arguing for,
I'm just showing you the one bag of patch we got.
but this covers this on the whole road.
Well, it's the whole road.
And sir, I think that's where we're talking about the potential of a street, street levy in the future to use as seed.
Only for the street.
Well, we
On
had
streets.
one and it rolled off as
It would be
Ms. Bolton
just for
described.
Yeah.
That's something that.
I guess my concern too is that, yes, I'm not for the levies, because I want to make sure the money goes where we want it. We're gonna put it into the streets. I think.
it can't go anyplace else. Once it's
And that's-
earmarked,
okay, that's fine.
as a road levy, it has to stay as a road levy.
Sir, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, John, did you do like the OPCW checklist? Is that for the submission of Edgefield?
We did not do that. Nothing was done with, as a checklist for OPWC.
So,
They didn't do any of that yet. The grants are, supposed to be in by the middle of September. And then nothing would be decided upon until December of this year. So it would have to, once the support staff goes out and checks it, and then they will sit down and bring all the projects together. Usually there's 80 to 100 projects that they rate, and they bring all those projects together, and then they prioritize them.
right,
And then once that priority list is made, then they submit that to the board, the Hamilton County Board, and they decide which projects will be funded.
right, because early submission is at the end of the month for us to submit into it. I was just trying to figure out how many points was that road?
Oh, to me, that would be, it would be Cadet, which would be the 25.
Edgefield?
No, Walmsley.
No, I'm talking about Edgefield. I'm talking about Edgefield.
Edgefield?
No, I'm not talking about Wamsley, I'm talking about Edgefield.
The worst part of Edgefield is from Laurelwood down to the bottom of the hill.
Right, so nobody from our council has gone out and done the checklist.
We don't
To be
do that.
submitted.
That's the support staff that does
But their website states different, that we have to submit it first, then the support staff comes out and checks in and see if there's any errors or.
it. We were trying to pick a project that was, a small stop type project that that the village could afford to do the project. So, there were other projects out there, but they're more expensive. We get constant complaints on Edgefield, on the hill for potholes. That has something to do with where we're gearing towards too.
Okay. So I was just wondering about that.
Could I just add to that just 1 second? In 2021, right after the police were disbanded, this village took a renewal levy, and it failed by 4 votes. We lost $330,000, and we've never gotten it back. All the levies that Lyndon was talking about before have failed afterwards. So,
We did pass one renewal,
not on this one, we did.
2022, I stood outside and
Yeah,
passed out.
that one you did.
The
but
renewal passed, but the other one has not.
we didn't lose any money on that. I'm trying to.
No, but I,
So this $330,000, we're gonna be giving you some more data on money. I want to emphasize, there's no decision. The likelihood of Edgefield being funded, I hate to say it, it's probably slim to none and slim left out. Not because the village doesn't think it's important, it's not the important thing, except Walmsley's important. I've said this before, I'll say it again, it's your street. You want it to be safe, you want it to be paved, and we would love to do all at once. But you're gonna hear a little bit more, I think, from our fiscal officer. You might want to chime in now. What's the ability of us to do that? Right, just do all the streets. Oh.
Look, I was, can I, this is very back of the envelope, okay, but I was working that problem over here. We have an inventory of the streets and their lengths. And if you take these assumptions, that Walmsley is about a third of a mile.
It's 0.3, yeah, it's 0.3, and Edgefield's 0.4 that you wanna review.
So listen to these, okay. So if Walmsley is a third of a mile, if every road was as bad and in need of the exact repairs as Walmsley, this is overdoing it, okay? Grant that. But if you take every road in Cleves, which is about 15 miles worth of roads, needing that level of repair, you would have, and did it all in 1 year. So that we can just have a nice, clear number to understand that we're gonna mortgage that over 30 years, interest-free. Okay, so that's the way that we're talking about financing these projects. So with no matching, with doing a full reconstruction of everything, that bill is $75.6 million. So per year, with no interest, it will be $2.5 million, which is how many times our actual income? I get confused on the rule of thumb, like what's in the general fund, but I think it's about $1 million a year.
Right, $1 million there, so that's
So
covering all the,
if we did nothing else but pave
Expenditures.
streets and service that mortgage interest, and keep in mind, a road is supposed to last 20 years. Okay, so we can challenge some of my assumptions, right? Some of these are gonna be surfacing, that's only a fifth of the cost. So we can bring that down. But if you take that assumption, then the bottom is 25 million. And therefore, what? 800,000 a year, which is basically still the entire budget. So I'm just trying to give you a frame of reference for what our current resources are and how we would need to pick priorities. And so we're still, without some change, we're definitely gonna be falling down. We're still gonna be letting things decay past their actual serviceable or desirable life.
Oh, so since ours is already there, just
No, no,
forget about it.
So I think I want to second what Linda was saying before about the finance process, that we're playing catch up here. And yes, Walmsley was already identified as an important project, urgent, neglected, shameful on our part. We acknowledge all of that, or at least I'll acknowledge for myself. And so what, the Walmsley project alone at 1.8, service over 30 years, is then taking us 60,000 per year if we get no matching. The only other things I want to say about the process that I think just need one more little highlighting is the two proposals that we put in this year were just to get something on the books because it's an annual grant. And we didn't want to lose the chance. If we don't put in our best foot forward now, then we've lost another year, and we've lost another X hundred thousands of dollars, and we've lost another bit of time. And the first time we can act on this is 2025.
Yeah, well,
That's when we can go bid.
you can't bid until July 2025.
So we did something. And I think that was what we could do in this time frame. The grants do. That's not to say that next year our top priority isn't Walmsley. I think we could make the case for that, and I think.
I'm sorry, I think it should be made, that it should be this time. I'm
it's
sorry.
too late this time. We couldn't even get everything we needed to do to get it submitted before the deadline.
So in other words, we're all sitting here for nothing and we're being told, oh, don't worry, your roads ain't gonna be plowed again this winter. You're gonna be stuck home on ice because they don't even salt it anymore because we have so much chunks everywhere. Who
We have
is the
seed
exact
money, we have
person?
seed money for Lower River Road. That's the advantage Lower River Road has right now.
But you're
You've got
talking
seed money to submit with that. You don't have seed money for Walmsley. And
We would never.
the only way Edgefield's gonna get done is if we get approved for a loan, because the likelihood is we will not get.
And why should we people on Walmsley who's lived with the same roof
Well,
for
we're gonna look
36 years
at
help
housing.
pay for?
We haven't even had an
I believe this-
opportunity.
This young lady's been waiting
Okay,
patiently for a
Erica.
while. Like,
So hopefully that doesn't, so that. Don't know why, I live in one place, it sucks, this is not my fault. He gets cookies, but. My only thing is, hopefully doesn't get done this year, well, this problem. Like, when we think we might do that. Well, we have not had our street committee meeting yet. It was gonna be mentioned, tonight that we wanted to form a street committee, which we have not had. And then we have to decide if another member of council sits on it, or if we ask the residents to sit on it. And I wanna meet with JMA. I wanna look at the whole list of streets. I wanna look at, because there's probably other streets other than even Walmsley. Not that they're worse or anything. If you put a 5-year plan together, you've got to kind of have an idea in your mind of what it would be and what it would cost. And we're gonna have to do that before we can even come to the residents with a potential street levy, or we're not doing our job. If we come to you and say, I think we can get one street done a year, maybe more, if we do a 2.5 mil levy, we have to do all of our homework before we can even come to you and ask you for that, or we're not doing our due diligence. And then we don't want to ask for 2.5 mil and then find out that's not enough.
Yeah.
So I think that streets are definitely a priority, but we've also been lambasted with all kinds of things. You know, all kinds of things that we have that need our attention and our financial attention. And so I want to be able to fix the street, but we do rely heavily on our street engineers to kind of give us the information, what it's gonna cost, what the likelihood of approval is. And they've been doing this for many, many years, JMA have. They kind of know, I think you can get this one funded, I think you can get this one funded. I think it's the amount of that street right now. It is why it's not
Well,
being
it ain't
applied
getting
for
any
this
cheaper.
year. So I think we definitely, this is not gonna be something that we're gonna ignore long. Yeah, that's all I can.
We understand that it's a priority, and we need to, the first order of business with the street committee is to figure out a plan to fix Walmsley. We know it's in disrepair, we know it's a priority.
Thank you.
Can I? We're talking about all these, going for a street, you know, or put a street fund out there and anything. Does anybody, I've heard some people that's run on council, why don't we put taxes on businesses in Cleveland? We got this right up there.
So they're on their property, they pay taxes on their
Don't
property.
they, like Cincinnati has a payroll tax.
Everywhere he works. he has
Everywhere I
taxes.
work at, in this, in the United
You
States.
know what, that would be a whole other topic to do an income tax in the village of Cleves. We have the ability to do that.
We have the ability, but we don't do it.
Well, we need a
He moved
public
out of
hearing on that, we
Norwood.
can't
He
solve
moved
that.
out of Norwood, moved the building here to Cleves, and he pays no income. I pay 5% to 8% to Cincinnati. You only see partial. I pay 8% to Blue Ash. I pay 22. Well, when I go across the river, when I work in Covington, I pay like 6.8.
When I started here in 1997 as a treasurer, we were constantly discussing these different potential income tax.
I mean, that
It
can
was
be used for the
determined
road.
that our residents, for the most part, would not be happy if we instigated an income tax. I think we knew
That's
that
an
to be
income
done. That's a
That's
topic for.
what I'm getting ready to do. Because quite frankly, we can sit here and talk all night. But I want you to understand, even though we're talking about Edgefield, and I've already talked to JMA about putting together all the things you're talking about. We're catching up. We're not gonna be catching up overnight. We have lots of issues in our village that have been ignored. And what I hope to have happen tonight has already happened. You're generating the discussion. Council has heard what you're saying. We're not gonna solve it tonight.
If it's 1.8 million now, in 2 years, it's gonna be 9.5 million.
I'm not gonna argue that. What I'm gonna say is that we need to sort of move on to the rest of our agenda tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming and sharing this information. You know, we need to hear from our residents. For years, I heard nobody comes to our council. You're here tonight. You're doing exactly what you need to do. I talked to Ms. Poser here. I said, council meetings should be education. If anybody walks out here tonight and doesn't understand what the problems are, they don't understand that Walmsley's been ignored, Edgefield's not being fixed, Morgan Street's not being fixed. All those are issues that we gotta figure out how to handle. We're not gonna figure it out tonight. So we need to sort of move on to our next agenda item. And I hope you'll stay because I got a feeling you're gonna learn some more things there. Because we're gonna be doing possibly legislation. Let me finish, please. We're gonna be doing probably legislation tonight. That legislation does not mean we're gonna be painting Edgefield. It doesn't. It only authorizes the engineer to pursue the grants. And I will tell you, as far as loans are concerned, because I had this discussion with her yesterday. Her comment to me was, even if you put in for a loan, there's only so much money there. And based on all of the projects, they will fund it until they run out of money. And if they run out of money, nobody's gonna get a loan. So even if we put it on, we're only looking at one issue. Okay? It doesn't mean it's gonna happen. And if we don't pass the legislation, that $87,000 is gonna go away. It's gotta happen soon. It does not have to happen, so I'm telling council tonight, because I had this conversation. If we don't pass legislation on it tonight, she can move forward. But if it's not passed by the end of the year, we lose. That money's gonna be gone, and it's gonna be gone forever.
That's the 87.
That's the $87,000. So with that, we need to move on to our next agenda item. So right now, I'd like to, I guess we go on to the public comments. We've been commenting. Are there any other residents that want to come up and talk to them?
I just had a quick question about the legislation. Is it gonna be two bills or just in one?
It's gonna be in one.
So both of them are being combined and submitted to,
It's gonna be submitted, doesn't mean they're gonna be.
But wasn't the Lower River Road already approved for so much because of Hamilton County?
Only the 87,000. Everything else is gonna be done in grants and legislation. That's why in the handout, I gave you the options, and the options that John gave, I think, the finance committee meeting was option 2. But, so right now, we're looking at the funding of the OWPC grant application on Lower River Road in Edgefield. And I know you've got legislation, tonight that you are working with our solicitor on.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, first of all, do they have copies of this out here? Penny, do they have copies?
Yes.
Do you have the actual resolution what?
Resolution 23 authorizing legislation. A resolution authorizing village administrator to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs and to execute contracts as required.
Well, council has it. We've discussed it to the hill. You know that if we don't pass legislation, we lose the money. So I guess what I'm asking from council, are you ready? Do you need to discuss this one? Or do you have questions that you need to ask about this particular resolution?
If there's no questions, then I will move to adopt resolution number 23 as stated by our village administrator.
I will second.
So we have a motion by, Ms. Meister and a second by Mrs. Bolton. Is there any further discussion among council? With no further discussion, is there any language we need to do on this one specifically? Because you talked to Rob about it.
I don't believe so. We can, suspend the rules with.
So,
a resolution without any to all that.
so we have motion on the floor. Penny, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Resolution passes, 4-0. Okay, so now we want to get on to, and there's some other information, and you should have this particular document out at your chairs. Now, let me explain to you why I asked our fiscal officer to prepare this. For the whole year, we really haven't known where our money is. And when you're looking at the budget, the way our council looks at it, and the way our fiscal officer looks at it, it's very hard to understand. So I'd like you to look at where it talks about August 31st, 2023. And then you're gonna look at August 31st, 2024, and you look to the general fund. And you will look to that, and you're gonna see that our general fund went up. Okay, so I asked Ms. Ozer to explain to you how that can happen.
Well, the taxes, you're receiving, your income on your taxes are higher because of the income millage went up, the valuation. Our expenditures have gone down. Certain things have gone down. So it did go up based on the revenue being brought in and our expenditures. If you go down to expenditures for general fund, 23 compared to, yeah, so it is 100,000 more, but our revenue, if you go down to our revenue for general fund, has gone up as of August 31st, about, gotta look at the numbers,
Looks
about 40,000, right,
900,000.
right.
like.
And then he asked me to go down, and he asked me the mayor asked me to do a comparison with the numbers from the end of August 23 to the end of August. So these numbers are coming from our accounting system. And then you go down the bottom, he asked, the differences, last year and this year on some of the salaries.
Could I interject for 1
Yeah,
second?
go ahead.
If you look at the general fund last year, it looks like council did a great job of not spending money. I don't think that's accurate. They did a great job, our fiscal officer did a great job in not paying our bills. So I asked Ms. Ozer to calculate the amount of bills that were unpaid, and if you go on the back page, you're gonna see, and this is an estimate, you didn't get a chance to
Right,
launch.
not- This was like a 2-hour going through each bill and calculating, so it could be higher. But
Yeah, right now, she's coming up with $66,578.36. So when you see the amount of money you spent, a good part of it is making up for the bills that were not paid last year. And if I'm not mistaken, I think some of those bills may have been a year alone.
up in the beginning of 23 or in the summer, yes.
So we're catching up on paying bills that were not paid.
We're
Which
still
like,
getting bills.
we are still getting bills. You want to talk a little bit about the tip money that we received?
Yes. So the TIF fund is a separate fund, but when the village gets TIF money, a portion like 48.8% is supposed to go back to the school district. And that's supposed to be sent pretty much right away after you receive. So when I first came in January, I kind of noticed the school wasn't getting, so I went back, the school never received their money from 2018 to 23. So Rob and I and the school district, we worked and figured it out. And then, so just 2 weeks ago, I had to send a check about for 95,000 to the school out of the tip money. It's just, we are in the council, we're all trying to play catch up and, you know, we are starting to feel good about the budget. I know the finance committee and we're gonna start, you know, I know we meet monthly. Linda and I are gonna start meeting, well, and now we got an administrator that's gonna make a big help to start budgeting for next year to have a really good idea. Next year, we should have a really clear forecast on what we will have, what will be,
What our
any
needs
money
will be,
extra for streets or whatever.
what our needs will be.
Yeah.
I'd like you to go through the administrator's salary and explain that issue.
Yeah, so the administrator left in the March, of this year. And then after that, the administrator, Rob,
He went to the administrator, he only did.
Well, part,
He only did the water.
it was 90-10. The village paid 10% and then, the waterworks paid 90 of the salary. His salary was very low as administrator. So that's why that's a big difference.
Is that the only reason? How did all the other stuff?
Oh, it was this one here.
All right, because quite frankly, I can't be paid more than $500 a month. Okay, that's the salary for the mayor, just like the council's $250. Nobody up here is getting rich. I'll guarantee these council members are not getting rich by $250 a month. Unless they're the best investors you've ever seen. So when you talk about the administrator's salary, okay, I want you to understand a good part of that's done because of the fact we didn't replace it. And what's gonna happen now is you're gonna see that administrator salary go up because we have hired one, okay? And that's, should be money well spent if we do things the right way, which I will tell you was not done the right way previously. There was virtually no oversight, and you cannot have an administrator, having been an administrator in the state for 28 years. If you don't have oversight, the administrator can do as much or as little as they want to do. Okay, so all I'm saying to you is it's not council's responsibility to do that. It is the mayor's responsibility to do the oversight, and then council gets involved when it comes to the evaluation. How is it gonna be different this time? We're meeting regularly. Do you not agree? And the first thing he said to me is, you just gave me 80 hours of work. And that is correct. There are so many things that need to be done. One of them is grant writing. Okay, one of them is gonna be grant writing. Redevelopment grants can be written. There can be a capital grant written. I'm expecting him to do that. If he doesn't do it, then we're gonna have issues. So the council will receive a narrative of his performance every month. Probably at month 3, we'll probably sit in an executive session where we listen to what he's accomplished and what he hasn't accomplished. Because I think it's important that they know it. He is responsible to you, the citizen. You should be getting responses back from him, and if you don't, I need to know about it. So I'm gonna put a little pressure on him, because he's gonna earn his money. So that's gonna increase. And now let's go to the fiscal court, because I think you need to address that piece of it.
Well, you see 23 and then 24. So I came in January, December, and they told me up for $15 for 15 hours a week. And then I told them no on the clerk because I was not doing all the meetings and, so they brought Penny in. But also with that salary, Penny cleans all the buildings and then,
Jim wanted cleaning every building.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I am doing the payroll still under 15 hours a week. I'm doing payroll, which is not going through Paycor now. That's saving money. So I just want to put that out there,
$400 a month.
at least, yeah, 'cause on that, it's between 400 and 500.
So in reality, if you take $400 a month times 12, you're talking about $4,800. You can sort of every month. This is not really a true comparison.
Right.
All right, and then you have parking ordinance.
Well, that's just what they're getting. as of last year, August, and what I have paid out of August 31st.
And I think on the park funds, you
Yeah.
already made more.
Daniel and his crew up, what, 2,500 from August 31st from last year to this year, so.
And I think we've already exceeded all of last year's, if you go beyond the 31st, their revenue has already exceeded what was brought in by the park last year.
Yeah.
So I want the people to understand that we're looking at every aspect of what's going on. I also want everybody to understand up in Coleman Woods, we have a major issue with our detention basins. And I have been asked the question, was asked today. Why don't you go back to Hamilton County? Great answer. Can't do it as long as the detention basins are in place, in the condition they're in. That's gonna cost money too. And number two, Coleman Woods does not have a homeowners association, and Hamilton County will never let us back in without it. So I'm just putting the information out there. There isn't an avenue for us to go. Even if we clean up the detention basins, there's not an avenue for us to go. Because they're not gonna let us in. And I don't know if anybody up in Coleman Woods is gonna go knocking on doors saying, hey, can we get a homeowners association? Because they'd be the most hated resident up there. So we've got lots of issues to deal with financially. All right, just want you guys to understand what we're dealing with. There's no simple answer. This village did not get in the condition it was in 9 months. We're not gonna get out of it. I answer any questions anybody would like to ask. Council or president.
How much money do we have in the tip fund after we pay the full?
Yeah, and I just finished 24. Rob gave me the okay to pay 24, so I can do that real quick here.
73,700.
Well, that might change because I just,
That's fine, but that's what it's showing on the fund balance.
okay, I just wanna,
But then she's gotta make a payment for payment.
so about $38,605 is what's left. And then we'll get, the village will get their next tip in January on the taxes, January and, well, January, March and August, stuff like that, for next year. So just whatever the village gets in on tip, they have to pay the school 48.8%.
That money is restricted money, okay? And it's restricted to specific areas in the village. Okay, and we can't just spend it like the township can spend it. They can spend it on pretty much because,
Everything except salaries.
yep, everything is salaries. And we've got more restrictions because of when it started. Quite frankly, I'd love to tell you what all those are, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you that. But sure.
So maybe you can kind of expand on the legal part of it too, because we have it. I don't know if that's our solicitor or if that's because we had to have the ordinances codified.
No, that has nothing
That
to
is
do with the
okay.
codification.
All right, so.
What that has to deal with is the fact that much of our infrastructure has been dismantled. I can't describe it any other way. He has been asked by council members to look up information. Every time that happens, it's dollars and cents. We have issues involving many legal things that we're trying to make sure we're doing it the right way. And when you talk about resolutions and you're talking about ordinances, you gotta make sure those are written the right way, and you gotta make sure that, well, you gotta go back and you gotta do a lot of research. We have purchased the ability from Am Legal, which should bring this down. For example, right now, Rob is looking at Am Legal's recommendations for a solicitor's ordinance. So when you talk about Am Legal, all the work they're doing for us now, because we paid a set fee, instead of Rob having to do all the research, all he's got to do now is take an ordinance, modify it, send it on to council for recommendation, whereas before, he had to do all of the research. And those are hours and hours. If you look at the number of resolutions we've had this year, the number of ordinances this year, there have been a lot more that's been done this year than what was done last year or the year before. I'm not blaming our former solicitor about that. You know, the solicitor's gonna do what council and the mayor and the administrator ask him to do. We're asking him a lot. So it is more expensive. That should start to decline because of the legal. You want to say about that?
No, I think good old ones. Well, some of this legal fee also includes, the work he did as the overseer of waterworks until we got a bill.
I'm not sure that's true.
No, that's just
Oh,
legal.
okay.
That's just legal.
That's just legal, okay.
Let me give you an example. Duke Energy, okay, and I know Mr. Walters has actually seen the flooding that happens over Mountain Road. I've seen it. Unfortunately, and Ted Babel's not here tonight, but unfortunately, Mayor Myers and Mr. Rahal did all the negotiating over there. Stormwater is part of that issue too. If you go along Mount Nebo, you're gonna see new driveways down the way. That is because finally, once we got our engineers involved, they sort of forced Duke to pay for things that they changed down on the lower end towards Timberline. What they did do is they altered the entire lay of the land and the swell that took water down the ditch. Now it's flooding. We always had a flooding problem, but not the level we have right now. So he's been doing research also on how to get Duke to do what Duke used to do and has refused to do. The cost for us as a village to go ahead and repair that area for Duke, the guys you're paying your electric bills, is $15,000. Okay? I don't want our village paying for it. Duke should be paying for it, not us. So he's working on that also. So those are issues that was not created by anybody, but how that was negotiated. I can tell you with 100% certainty because I have the emails. Mayor Myers and Mr. Rahal were asked by Ted Babel to sit down right when they started the construction phase of it and let's talk this thing through. They were refused to do it. And the answer I got was Duke wouldn't let them. That could be true. Not saying it's not true. But where does Duke get off saying we don't have to apply? We don't have to follow your zoning laws, or we don't have to follow the stormwater rules that are in place. They ignored it, and now we got a problem we got to fix. So those things all are ours. Any other questions anybody would like to ask about the budget side? Okay. So right now, we are looking at a JMA contract that council has. They were our only engineering firm until we signed the contract that council knew nothing about with Choice One Engineering. That was for $10,000. So we have decided we don't need two engineers, we need one engineer. And JMA has been here for many years. I think the council's been pleased with JMA. So you have before you the contract that JMA has proposed. They will help us on our stormwater. That's probably going to be extra, as it would have been for Choice One. They weren't going to do it for free. First $10,000 was to help write the plan. Unfortunately, from August 1st last year until March 16th, nothing was done on that. So once I got involved in it, a lot of the money over time has been used up. So we didn't get much for our $10,000. And we're not going to be asking GMA to do anything more than make sure that we do things legally and the right way. And that has been a problem. And quite frankly, the council, I do not believe is responsible for that either. I think they probably didn't have any idea the contract was even signed until this year. That's sort of what I used to call the step down. Not blaming anyone else. That has to deal with the administrator and the powers the administrator had, and what was going on and what wasn't going on. So that's where this gentleman's gonna come in and make sure it's done the right way.
So this contract is basically for the stormwater.
Now, it is basically for if they need to hire, for example, surveyors, you're gonna know what the hourly rate is. Because one of the things that has to be done, we have partial maps that were done by JMA back in around 2010. You have had additional building going on in Coleman Woods, for example. Those are not mapped yet. They're gonna have to map those. We're gonna have to have that as part of our plan that we file with the EPA. So there's gonna be an hourly rate that, and choice one was proposing the same thing.
But it is stormwater related.
Well, it can be, it doesn't have to be, it can be other things they do that the village requires them to do. But yes, there will be stormwater related fees, but there may be other ones. For example, let's say we're doing cut and fill permits. If we have to call them out, for example, you go along Harrison Avenue, you'll notice there's a road that they put down. In fact, the property owners have sold that already. Unfortunately, nobody was monitoring that stuff. I think Mr. Oppenheimer, I think you brought to the village attention the issues that were happening behind the condominiums along Bridgetown Road. You were told by Mr. Ray Hall we didn't need to worry about that, I believe. Am I misstating that?
That was at Mount Nebo and Miami.
That's a different issue. I'm talking about the actual, where the creek runs behind, and they were moving heavy equipment in and moving earth back there. You went down there. This is the one right here on East State, where all the sidewalk is collapsing.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have an estimate of what what this potentially could cost us monthly?
I don't have any idea at this point because the mapping itself is pretty much done. That's gonna be the big cost, the mapping of the stormwater, like the catch basins and things like that. So, I don't know.
Doesn't JMA help us also with our streets and going out?
They
that
do.
process? So again, this just goes back because JMA has been our engineer, the Village of Cleves, and they were part of the fact that when they do go out for bids, I think they help prepare the bids, they help also write the grants of the same thing. So we put a lot of emphasis on there as well, so.
But those fees are separate. It alters depending on each street project.
Well,
That's not included in this, right? I mean, this is not a contract for
The
a street.
contract, you see the dollar
Okay.
amount is if they have to use those services,
Right,
we're gonna get, as we decide how we're gonna use them, they're probably gonna be giving us an estimated hours and what the cost is. And we're based on
Time
those.
and material.
I'm sorry?
It would probably be more of a time and material
Exactly,
versus a firm fixed cost.
exactly. It's not gonna be $10,000. We're only doing this.
So the reason why the hourly rates are in there are probably the fact that you say we want to finish the rest of the mapping, and they come back and say it's going to be $100 at this surveyor, and we're going to have a project manager over that, we're going to have to document it, post, or whatever, and this is the estimate.
Exactly, based on this contract. Exactly correct.
But I think to Linda's point, though, I think what she's asking, maybe even I would have, this is not the contract for the engineering services that they would provide us for the streets.
It could be. It's gonna be an hourly rate, is what it's gonna be.
Well, hasn't JME always provided us with like a firm fixed fee?
yeah, and that comes out of each particular street project.
I honestly, I don't know because I wasn't involved in that. I just asked her to take a look at what her charges would be to the village if we use those services. It could be, I could ask that question, you want to table this? There's no price on it.
I wonder if you're referring to different clauses here. Sorry, Jerry, I'll get this up there. You said there's a fee associated with a road project. They'll get the money out of clause A for that. They'll get their money out of our different engineering and layout. Okay, that's B and C. And then I think anything bespoke, that is anything we order, comes at the rate specified.
The a la carte.
Which, and then my question on that is, do we control what we order in that case?
I don't know the answer to that one, but I can certainly talk with her. Like I said, there's no need, if we decide we don't want to adopt this tonight, they're not gonna be upset, okay? So I can find out any questions that you want, or actually, you can find out. Because you're,
There you go.
yeah, you can find out, because that's gonna be your job.
I thought JMA always gave us a firm fixed price for being our engineering.
They do for the streets, and that's all they really ever did for us, because Hamilton County did the stormwater when we were part of their district.
And now in lieu of the fact that we're not in Hamilton County anymore, this is the a la carte.
I
the a la
think-
carte.
I think the majority of this will go for stormwater, and that's what I was trying to ask.
Okay, I'm sorry,
No, that's okay. That's okay.
but I understand your point too.
You need more explanation, guys? I mean, you do, I can. Great, that's what we gotta do tonight.
I don't.
I think you should clarify that. What is the stopgap on anything that we've ordered here? So, I'd like clarification on, okay, do they get a percentage as specified in A and B? I guess C. And then B is anything above and beyond that, or is it D, anything other than those types of projects? Just a little hand holding on that would be appreciated.
Let's just table this for tonight. Get your answers, we'll talk about it next month.
Well, can we have some of these answers maybe by finance committee?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll do my best to get your answers.
Because, yeah, one of my questions is how much money do we need to appropriate and budget for engineering services? And it's hard to tell by this, so that we're prepared, financially for using their service.
Yeah. And if there is a flat fee that you're referring to, that's not it.
All right.
Well, then I would suggest that you get all your questions to our administrator as well as when they do. That way we get them all, so we're not missing out on those questions.
Yes, you can email me any questions you have. I will get answers as soon as possible.
And we will put this, Jerry, on the agenda for the finance committee meeting. I'll be back for that, but I just want to make sure that someone else has got the agenda going.
So,
And employee salaries will be on that as well, Jerry.
so Mayor, tabling this, we're not losing out on anything or we're not up against anything.
No, that's why it was stated in there as a draft. Whatever, we can work through this any way we need to work with it. She's fine with that.
I don't have any major objections. I just want to better understand.
Well, I think we need to have the questions answered first. So we're gonna table that. Oh yeah, I skipped over Parks Committee. I'm sorry. Kevin, before you give that report, I do want to make sure people understand the water lines, the reason we have that grant is right here. That's all we can do for my grants. So it's not out of the general fund, it's not your tax dollars. Everything that is going to the park, because he took the time to write the grant, actually alter the grant. And it's all being paid for, not by the taxpayers' dollars here. Kevin, why don't you go ahead and get your Parks Committee report on this year.
If you want to sing like grant praises, that's on Christmas walk. This one was supposed to be a illuminated sign that became some water fountains, which I think is more useful. Sorry, I had notes somewhere, but we're gonna help me get through this quickly. They're gone.
I expect there was only two, Gary, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Here we go. So in our regular meeting, This is the list of things discussed, mentioned, or important updates for council. There was a miscommunication about the deliverable of our resolution for the ODNR grant, so that grant was not filed. So the repairs to shelter number 2 will not happen under the auspices of that grant this year. We've already had updates on the water fountain and gazebo. Again, water fountains will be coming as soon as possible. The gazebo was moved successfully, and we are waiting for the other installations to make it palatable to our general use and for the Christmas walk functions that will be first test of the new place. There was a decent length of discussion about the O'Rourke property next to the park. Things that are germane for council to appreciate are, there was a lengthy discussion on distinctions between landfill and a clean fill dump, or there's another term for this, but the only thing going into basically being pushed into the river, not the river, into the pond that's there to the north of the park is clean fill. There are separate considerations for the landfill operations behind Kroger. So we want everybody to appreciate those differences and be careful with your language when we're talking about those two different functions. We are in need of a process to understand the total history of that property. What has been litigated in the past, what responsibilities the landowner has to covenants on the deed. One of which is at issue is that it's supposed to be returned as a recreational facility by some specified time. Cleves also had obligations there to specify what we wanted, and both of those dates have passed. But the main topic sentence is still, we need to do research to understand what's supposed to happen there. We're going to do that in cooperation with O'Rourke. We might do our research on the side, but nobody exactly knows what should have happened there. And then the last remaining piece is that the reason for caring right now was, at least in my view, principally because Hamilton County and Great Parks was interested in that property as a plank in their Blueways project, which is a 15 to 20 year project to acquire and develop lands, have bike trails alongside the Miami, running a great length. If it was continuous, it's something like 40 miles. And they're trying to do that in a modular fashion. One of those modules is connecting Cleves and the high school campus to the other side and Cleves bike path. So that is a critical property for that process. And Hamilton Great Parks has not consulted O'Rourke on that property, to my understanding, or to anybody who knows understanding. Therefore, it has not been rejected per se. We don't know what the intentions for use of the property are over the 15 to 20 year scale, when it might become available and so forth. These are conversations we want to have with O'Rourke, and they will be invited to a subsequent parks meeting to get their understanding, what they know about the Blueways project and so forth, with that being the principal focus of those conversations. Then there was additional switching subjects. There was additional discussion on how to spend funds efficiently coming up. It is urgent to spend the COVID money. Members of that committee were encouraged to think of things to spend their money. I have a list of submissions from Daniel. I have my own ideas, hardware we can buy. One of the things that was discussed in some length, I'm not saying it's a lot of length, is a club car, not a club car, but a golf cart for transporting patrons of the park from our bad parking situation to fields where where people with accessibility issues are having trouble getting to spec. So we did kick around that idea. Because we're on a crunch time frame, spending by 12/31, I don't know what that process looks like. I still want members of council to chip in their favorite ideas too. I don't think it's a terrible. I want people to think creatively about what we spend that money on to enhance the general outdoor experiences of Cleves. If you were to offer as a service, accessibility, enhancement in the form of club car transportation, we still need to evaluate liability. The staff says you need a CDL to run a golf cart from our parking lot. I don't know these answers. We didn't have those answers.
Where's the golf cart stored? How does it get from
Storage.
that to the park?
Well, we do have a shed there.
Cause you never ever know, you never ever know. Well, golf carts are either gas operated or electric, right?
It would have.
So, and you never know for sure when you're gonna need someone that needs that assistance or not, unless they call ahead. Somehow.
I think if you followed through on that vision, you would be having a park employee basically running loops from the parking lot to stations deeper in the grass. But I'm not specifically saying let's spend they do get ridiculous, $25,000. I'd stick with 5 for a used one. I'm not saying we do that and commit to that service, but I'm not personally hearing the ideas like this is how we spend these tens of thousands of dollars with the biggest bang for our buck. There's other equipment we can look into, but like I don't know if we don't have like orders to give to administration by what next time, then they're having trouble spending.
Yeah, it's coming up. And to clarify, we're talking about the COVID money that has to be spent by the end of the year.
So right now that balance might be after John's work on the gazebo about 25,000. What I back it up.
It sounds around 24.
So it's just an advice to council to submit your ideas to administration, I suppose, to get that money spent with the biggest bang for our buck. I don't have a ton of updates from Christmas Walk Committee. We did modify the grant so that materials for viewing movies can be purchased instead of rented. Those orders need to go out soon because we're running into a availability issue soon, I'm sure. But that's all proceeding. I will shut up now.
You gotta tell them about your meeting coming up for Christmas walk or not?
The next one is Wednesday a week at 6. That's basically just trying to catch up with everybody that's been involved in the committee because the last one was slightly extended. And sorry, one other thing, I will be representing Christmas Walk to at least North Bend. I have an email out to Addison to solicit their input, advertisement, cooperation in any way that they're interested. And any business that wants to participate in the lighted parade is encouraged to contribute a float for marchers on December 7th.
Mr. Waters, you got a question?
I do have a question. I apologize. Kind of looking at the agenda, I just got 15, 20 minutes ago. I realized that there wasn't a specific item for me to wear one. But it probably ties more into next year, public comment section. So I was wondering if I could have a.
Yeah, absolutely.
Newer resident of Cleves, moved in last April of last year.
Feel free to stand up if you want to. Okay.
Sure. Resident on New Pine Drive. When we moved in, it was just a small, basically, small section. Right? Shortly after we moved in, they started clearing lands back there. Then we found out about the subdivision. Okay, that's fine. After talking to the resident, there was a lot of talk. And I'm like, oh, they're going to put in a gate, like they did at Fort, I believe. Okay. So fast forward a little more over a year, and now it appears that they're connected. And as soon as they connected those roads, the amount of traffic that was now coming up New Pine was it was a bit much already, just right off the bat, which then ties somewhat into Edgefield, right?
Yeah, the repair streets, yeah.
So, from a standpoint of like wanting a gate twofold safety. That intersection of Edgefield and New Pine, only four-way intersection. That's a, there's stop signs there. People disregard it, they don't care. I live right on the corner, so I see it constantly. There are always a lot of kids around and stuff like that. A lot of the people that come from that short part of New Pine, they know to stop, they know their kids, and they look out. Second part of this is, you know, it's the amount of traffic. I know some people might complain about it's just 50 something houses. It doesn't matter about the houses, right? It's the amount of traffic. Not 50 houses. You got two people. They both work, and they both go this way and that way. Well, that's 100 more trips down Edgefield that people are taking, right? And it's not just the people that work, Amazon trucks, Kroger delivery trucks, all that. Those gonna be cutting and going through all that stuff. So I have learned a few things tonight from the listen. And it's the fact that they're gonna wanna sit there and trim off 2.5 inches of Edgefield for a section. Is that really solving the problem? The problem is traffic. That's why Edgefield is the way it is. So if you're gonna compound this by opening up an entire subdivision now that can come through here, which, by the way, the new part of that subdivision, from what I'm understanding, the mailbox, if they're putting a mailbox cluster for that new part, they're putting it right where Edgefield, or right where New Pine in that subdivision. So everybody's gonna be coming up Edgefield because they're gonna be stopping for mailbox, right? It doesn't make sense to me if you're really, you know, is Edgefield perfect? No, it's not perfect, right? Is it horrible? I drive downtown every day. So driving down 50 in the city of Cincinnati streets, there's tons of roads that are way worse than Edgefield is right now. But I mean, if you're not seriously going to consider actually fixing it to handle the amount of traffic that's going to come, you're just right. Even if you're going to open that up while construction on that subdivision is going on, you're wasting money until that subdivision is done. Because we all know that the cement trucks, all the big construction trucks, where are they coming from? They're coming down from Kilby. They're making a slow crawl up Bridgetown. Are they gonna go all the way up to the Indian Trail engine? They're gonna peel off the easiest, quickest way they can get there, which is come through down that. Then you're gonna be having concerns with New Pine. And people are gonna be like, well, when are you gonna fix New Pine? Why are you gonna fix Edgefield again? It's got all tore up. You're not addressing the real problem, the amount of traffic. And you have to engineer a road to be able to handle the traffic, or else you're just gonna constantly on the silly book fixing that.
So what you're asking for is for us to consider potentially a gate.
Yes.
Okay,
Just like that, just like it's a plot,
well, we have one at the top of Westgate Drive as well. I live on Westgate.
Yep.
And the fire department gets the key.
Yep.
So if they need it for the fire truck, boom, they're out, they can open it. Because the question there was quick access to Coleman Woods, to those houses in the back of Coleman Woods.
Yep.
And there were residents that wanted us to open that. Because boy, it's sure convenient to fly down Westgate Drive to get to the school. But Westgate Drive isn't narrow.
Right.
And our engineer said, you don't want that extra traffic coming down Westgate Drive. So I get you 100%. You will have some residents who would love to cut through that new subdivision to get up to Bridgetown quicker, perhaps. So you may have some interest out of residents there that don't want the gate up. I would definitely consider council looking at that because we're the ones that are gonna have to fix those streets. If the traffic is doubled or tripled because residents in the township are using our streets to cut off and get down to the school quicker or to anywhere around 50. So I see what your concern is, and I think it is something council should definitely look at.
So the way I look at this simply is the only things I've really heard on the perception, honestly, the negatives on this are number one, safety. Number two, the negatives of increased traffic to the subdivision. Number three, which some people might not really think about, it might not be an issue, somewhat of an assumption in a way, but I remember 2 months ago, when the trailer, bunch of, cars that got broken. Just last week, there was a attempted break-in of a car, 2 doors down, right? If you open this up, you have now given people who might do things like that, a backdoor into another subdivision and all that, right? Is that gonna happen? But it's something to think about as a possibility that could now be that.
So could you tell us your name?
Joe, Hornbeck.
Okay, so you and I have spoken a little bit about this.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And I appreciate you being here tonight, and I apologize that we got so diverted on everything else we didn't deal with the gate, so I'm glad you brought that up. I would also encourage you to attend the Miami Township Trustees meeting. You know, I brought up the concern about this, it's not just the traffic we're gonna be dealing with. We're also gonna be dealing with our stormwater coming into our stormwater. And all the silt that's gonna wind up coming down into Morgan Creek, spill right by your house, Jerry, you know what happens. Whether you've seen it as you come down your street, but when it's heavy rains, all of that's gonna increase flow. And I have already sent on to information both to the administrator and to the trustee. And I had asked them what to contact me, they did. We just haven't been able to connect. I'm not gonna be able to make this meeting on the 18th, 2 other meetings that day. But I do think they need to hear it too, and not just for me. And so I want to thank you and stopping this, because we need to talk about that. And we do need to get better information from our residents as to what they want and what they don't want. But everything you are bringing to our attention tonight will be part of our minutes, and we're probably gonna have to talk about this more. So, thank you.
I was, almost representative of the coalition of people, so this is, not just me. So.
We appreciate you
Can I add
coming
in
out
that?
and your-
Can I ask another question on that one? So in regards to that gate, can you walk me through what the process is of having that approved?
Well,
As we talked before, it was already verbally committed to us.
I couldn't hear that question, sir.
It was already verbally committed that it was gonna be done, as we've already discussed. I just wanted, and you said you wanted to make sure it was done the right way. I don't know what that means.
Well,
Can you walk me through what the process
to me, what it means is that the residents throughout the Coleman Woods have had an opportunity to hear and talk about some of the issues you're talking about here tonight. Number one, I think that has to happen. That's probably a specific related to just that issue. The second thing is, who's paying for it? I've had 2 residents offer to pay for it.
I'm one of them.
Okay, actually, you're 3 now. Okay, so you're number 3. Personally, I don't think that's a decision that a single property owner should have to. My personal opinion, and it's nothing more than an opinion, I think the planning of that process was good. The village was, the only ones that were involved in that were, Mayor Myers and, Mr. Radel. I don't think it was ever discussed in an open meeting that they even attended them. You know, for making commitments of village funds that the council should have been involved in. Do I think the council will probably look at that seriously? And if they do I think they would appropriate the money for it? Probably. But I would say that I also think the Miami Township trustees need to look at that. And they need to be taking a look at how that subdivision impacted the village. Now, I actually have the minutes. Their administrator, Jim Brett, gave me the minutes from those meetings. Do I think Cleves was represented well in those meetings? No. There were a lot of questions that should have been asked that doesn't appear to have been asked in those meetings. That's not the Miami Township trustees fault. They represent the unincorporated area. Our represent the village citizens. And there need to be more discussion about it. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I can't speak for the council. If anybody else wants to address that,
I believe that it might be an order, it might be something the street committee, if once it's formed, needs to look at, but I also believe that since there are residents here, that there ought to be a public hearing on it, as opposed to a council.
I agree.
So I think the next step, if that's gonna be something that would wanna be looked at, you set up a public meeting so that all sides can come together and then the council take recommendations.
It's an absolute idea.
I like that idea as well, Mr. Walters. I think we add that to our list. One of the first two things we discussed is a streets committee, and out of streets committee, we can set up a public session on that. You know, that'd be appropriate, Ms. Bolden.
I think the fire department needs to be involved in that, I think the police department needs to be involved in that.
You'll see in the minutes, and I need to get them on to you guys when they discuss this. The fire chief at the time, Brian Lacy, was opposed to the date. And he was opposed to it because it will slow down their response time.
Correct.
That is incorrect. That was at the Hamilton County Zoning Commission representing Cleves. He took the stand and he said that it was entirely up to Cleves.
He did say that.
Correct, right? But so he was not opposed to it. He said it was entirely up to Cleves whether or not they put it up, and he was okay with it as long as he was given to his staff.
Yeah, they
Well-
didn't oppose the one on Westgate.
Just so
He
you
didn't
know,
oppose it.
I've spoken to him since you and I talked about that, and I got the minutes. So he's no longer the fire chief, all right? So you got a new fire chief there. He told me he's absolutely opposed. He may not have said it, may not be reflected in the minutes, but that was just a conversation I had with him, and the only reason I had it is because Brett gave me those minutes, so I called him to find out what his stance was. So I can get him in here to talk about that. Sometimes when you're talking about minutes, they're really good minutes, they give you all the details. Other times they're not. One of the advantages we have, and I think Penny will attest to that, she has to go back to the video sometimes to figure out what was said and what wasn't said. I don't know how they did that. I wasn't there. None of the council was part of it. So I think going with Mr. Walters' thing, bringing the current fire chief in, having the discussion is well worth our
I would also look into acquiring a bid. I would like to know, as we're going through this discussion, what the cost of an appropriate gate would be. I want that to be part of the discussion along with everything else.
I can grab that real quick. Parks. We just.
Would it have to be
like
sturdier than that one?
time. Oh, that's pretty sturdy.
Okay,
It's pretty sturdy.
okay.
If you try to drive through that, then you're gonna be serious damage.
Well, I haven't been up, I lived going up the hill, so I haven't been up to the top, but there is one at the top of Westgate. And there was no objection to that, it's fine.
So long as it goes through a process, I'm happy. For the residents I'll just tell you, you can start sending your hate mail now. I don't think there should be a gate there. But I can tell you, it's been a burr in my saddle for a long time, knowing that that meeting existed and we have not been briefed on anything that happened about it in 2 years. That includes the clearing of the forest, which was done without, I think, even without my account. Nobody told council. I live in Coleman Woods. I hear the buzz saws and the trees falling down. What the hell is going on? That's the level of information Cleves had on that. So long as you deliberate this and we hear testimony on the case for having open roads, then in addition to the concerns for having a gate, I'm happy if we just ride this inertia from the people. I assume that most of the people who have had the loudest voices so far have been very proximal, have been New Pine residents or adjacent. And I think that's one impact on the community. It's not the whole impact. So I think we've outlined the process. I would insist on us following a process. I'll be very upset if we do not follow the process to come to a decision. That's the only flag that I'm actually planting.
I agree with you 100%. We need to have more people than we're here tonight.
And
Really focus specific.
I will say that those minutes are a little funny because the backdoor conversations I've had, as limited as they are, refute expressed opinions represented in those minutes. So, somebody is being untruthful or inaccurate.
I was at the meeting. We'll get the Hamilton County, minutes, and the only reason that street was approved was because the Cleves representation that was there specifically stated that they would have a gate, and if you're okay with them having a gate, you can put the road through as an access for emergency.
Yeah, that's not the one I'm referring to. So I'm not doubting your information.
Which meeting in particular? Minutes? Is it something,
Whatever Chuck emailed us, that I don't remember saying.
I
I do believe that Cleves represented, that they wanted the gates. But the specific minutes saying which specific persons represented that, I doubt.
The issue boils down to council not. That's what the issue boils down. And I think that's valid. I think the one thing we've learned, nothing else, is council has to be involved in these decisions, not just the village administrator or the mayor. Any other comments on this?
No.
All right. And we're moving on here. Let me tell you a little bit more. Yeah, we're what? Oh, that's right, we still, gosh, right. Garrett, go ahead.
Mr. Walters, step on up.
Well, I'm gonna be very brief. On the 23rd of September, which is, I believe, 2 Mondays, irrespective, the 9/23, Hamilton County zoning, we've set up the meeting
Oh, yeah.
where we'll all be here. For the public's edification right now, what we're doing is we're gonna homogenize our zoning ordinances in line with Hamilton County and other municipalities. And the benefit of this is that it will look at our zoning that we currently have in place and bring it more in line with what has been going on. And I'll give you a prime example. With the legislation of the recreational marijuana, we have to have a place or designated for something of that nature. And while we may have something over in Harrison, I believe there's lines out the wazoo, I'm told, long lines over in Whitewater. We need to be prepared for that. So there's a host of things, and that's gonna take a process. And what that does is it gives our zoning a outline that is in line with Hamilton County. So if there's issues, the verbiage will be the same or tailored to our specific needs. If for example, we don't cover Airbnbs because Airbnbs are so popular right now, we can adopt that or we can opt out of that. So that's coming up. It'll be a 6-month process, possibly or sooner, depending on the objectives that we outline and timelines that we want to do that. So again, thank you for making that available. I think that'll be a huge success or a good thing for Cleves because we've been lacking so much in our ordinances. The other thing I want to make mention of is we had our first public hearing on a rezoning process. Over here on Mount Nebo, we've had our first public hearing of that. We have the other one tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and then there's another one on the 18th at 7 o'clock. So it's open to the public for you to come here. We're in the process of that. So
what's the purpose of the rezoning?
The rezoning is going from a residential area to a business area.
They're requesting a rezoning. They haven't been approved yet.
It has not been approved. So I want to bring briefly my interpretation of how that process works that I just found out. Maybe our administrator, maybe the mayor can help me if I say something wrong. So the purpose of the public hearing is to hear the request by the requester who's asking for the rezoning, and then hear the opposition or for and against. After the 3 meetings, the commission, which is made up of council and residents. Okay, so
It's made up of the mayor, 1 council rep, and 3 residents.
and correct. So again, we would not make a decision at the end of that, but go away, take away and digest all the input from the residents who were for and against it and the requester. Zoning, the planning and commission, the planning and zoning commission would then make a recommendation to allow a rezoning or to not allow it. That would come to council. And council is the quasi-legal authority to adopt zoning. So if the recommendation is to deny the rezone or allow it, would be voted upon by council. Whomever is dissatisfied with that decision would then be able to go to the appeals process. And again, the appeals process is to mainly look at if there were errors or omissions in how the process flowed out in the public hearing. Not whether they like it or they feel that we made a wrong decision, if we made a wrong decision based on an error. So, again, it's an interpretation of the ordinances. So right now, the zoning process. So it's zoned right now, so residential, non-use. And they want to be able to combine it with their business right now. So, and then that would be overturned or upheld if it goes to the appeals process by whether the residents didn't like it or the requester didn't like it. After that, it's in a civil matter. Is that a true statement then? If whomever doesn't like the appeals process, it's settled by Hamilton County Civil Court. Is that
That's my understanding of the process.
kind of in a nutshell? So again, it's a recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's brought up to council for the vote because they have ultimate authority in rezoning and zoning. And then whoever wants to make that appeal. So that's kind of the process of it.
The appeal isn't done before it comes to council? Because are they appealing the council's decision or the board?
They would appeal council's decision because council has the ultimate authority in rezoning. Correct? I mean, that.
I didn't know
Yes.
if the appeal
We would
was,
make commission would make the recommendation to council. Council would vote on that, whether to uphold it or deny it.
okay, that makes sense.
And then whatever the decision was made, whether the opposition didn't like it or the requester didn't like it, could then go to
The appeal.
the appeals. And they look at it on the merits, not whether, well, we like the guy or we don't like the guy or whatever. They look for errors and omissions in
The process, they look at the
the
process.
process and make their decision to uphold it or overturn it. And then whoever doesn't like that, whether it's the requester or the opposition, so to speak, their only alternative then would be to go to the civil court in Hamilton County.
At this point, yes.
So that's how I interpret it. I think our solicitor did a nice job. Kind of,
That's my understanding of it as well, solicitor.
okay. And thank you for bringing up your work. I'll make sure that they appear for the next one for you all. So, and then I'll finish. Thank you. Thank you, Stuart.
All right, so one of the infrastructures that was suspended, once again, not by council, but by the mayor, executive action, was the mayor's court. One of the reasons probably for that was legitimate. That is that the sheriff's department would not cite in the mayor's court. So that's only one level. So that's the stance of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. We're not looking at changing that. We're looking at bringing it back for zoning, primarily zoning issues. We do have a lot of issues in our village. So we're looking at reactivating it. And there's a resolution to appropriate funding. So if I give you this a little background, we initially looked at using Addison, and we were going to use their magistrate, their software. Well, we got more into it, couldn't use the software. We have to own our own software. Can't split it into two separate courts. So we had hoped we could do that because that would save money for both entities. That's not going to happen. Then when it came to the magistrate, their most recent one, we were going to borrow theirs, so we would hold it the same day. They would come down here. The problem with that was their last mayor's court not just last, but a number of them have gone until 9 o'clock at night. Can't be over the mayor's court at 10 o'clock at night. That isn't gonna work. So Rob has our solicitor.
Yeah, really.
Our solicitor has, and you probably know who, I can't remember his name,
Yes, Scott Rubenstein.
would do this for the remainder of the year at $400, I believe is what the email Rob said.
He's $400 per appearance. So if we ran a zoning court in October, November, and December, he'd get $1,200 for the remainder of the year.
And I talked with Cindy about it and the cost factor of it. You'll notice there's a special projects fund. And then there's salary, retirement, contracts, et cetera. We're looking at using to start off with the actual clerk from their court also. And so I think the total cost we looked at for the remainder of this year was $8,000. And Cindy did the calculations on that for us. And at this point, I guess we'll open any questions that you may have.
I have one. Why are we looking at a special projects fund? The mayor's court can be ran out of the general fund, can it not?
When we last had our mayor's court, we had 3 enterprise funds. One of those was a drug fund and 2 were special projects funds. They were actually titled computer funds. The intent of both of those special projects funds was to fund upgrades, continuous software purchases. So you'll see 2 funds. One was for the equipment itself, new computers, printers, equipment, and the second was for software. The intent was to purchase the premium Baldwin package when that fund matured. So those monies have been sitting there since we suspended mayor's court years ago. I thought it was good utilization of those funds that have been sitting there to clear them up.
Oh, absolutely is, but I'm just saying, going forward, the cost for the magistrate, the solicitor, the mayor's court software, all of that will be in and out of the general fund.
Correct, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because it says special projects fund, like we would be depositing
We're using
into a separate fund.
We're using special project fund to exhaust those funds, purchase the capital outlays and software and any other materials and equipment. But yes, to fund it in the future, it'll come out of the.
Or whatever those special project funds don't cover will come out of general.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that.
So I'm not real sure how much we're talking about as far as, do we know how much the dollar amount actually is after the cost price? How much is in that fund?
A little over 8,000.
There is over.
Yeah.
We can only utilize those funds to purchase the computer software.
So you're still gonna have to have general fund money appropriate for salaries.
For salaries, yes. We could potentially, as you look at section 4 here, additional expenses for supplies and materials not to exceed $1,000. I don't foresee us using all of that. But we have to buy some storage for our records room, potentially some computer softwares in addition to Baldwin, like Microsoft Office. There may be a filing cabinet just for security, safekeeping of files.
So there's other things you can spend the balance of.
One of the special projects funds we could use to purchase filing cabinets, physical equipment. But as far as the magistrate fees and other salaries and benefits, that'll come out of the general fund.
Okay. That's what I thought we discussed at finance. I just wanted to clarify.
So I guess at this point, we need to ask, is there a recommendation from council to pass this ordinance?
What number are we on?
Ordinance number 6.
And it is an ordinance.
I'd like to point out one thing, section 3, I think there's a typo. Clerk salary and benefits payments not to include 400, I think it should be.
You're correct.
Did you have a question? Sir?
Yeah, so is mayor's court just for zoning or is?
Right now it's just for zoning.
Okay, so deputies will not be part of it?
I'm sorry.
The deputies?
No.
No,
No?
it's civil. It's all civil.
Okay,
It would be for things like, for example, up in, Westing, there's a number of cars that are sitting in the front yard, a number of them in the backyard. And, they would have to possibly appear in court for that.
okay,
And, on the front of this house I'm thinking of, I'm not gonna say the words, but there's some initials.
right,
It says, first word would be Clevites, mine your own, and there's an FB. Okay, that's the attitude of that particular resident. Even though residents on either side have complained about it, right now, we don't have any way to address it. So we would address that in a mayor's court.
okay. I mean, like, for the revenue wise, is it gonna be worth it? Will that generate enough revenue to pay for it
It's
over
not a
time?
revenue generating business.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
but if
No.
we're gonna plan on spending over $8,000,
That's just to get it started.
right,
That expense likely wouldn't be every year. But we have to find some way to make sure people abide by our zoning ordinances. So this will not be, most likely be a moneymaker the first year or two.
I completely understand that.
Forever. It's not the intent to make money. It's an intent to enforce the ordinances and the zoning
Right, but
for the livability of the community.
no, I'm 100% on board with it. I'm just trying to see the future of it.
There's all startup costs. This would be
Right.
a one-time cost, and I think you'd see the cost.
So there's not like a licensing fee to use it every year to renew it? or-
There's an upgrade fee, I don't know the dollar amount.
Okay.
I haven't had enough time, no, I haven't.
We're
reached
just
out to
doing,
Paul
right
Whitman.
now, it's just between now and then.
There is an annual license. So your startup cost, I think I put in here not to exceed 5,000. I believe the actual cost is around $4,500. There may be some additional training. The user license annually will be much less than that. So there will be costs. And yeah, I don't even think that will be cost neutral on this project. But the intent is to address the quality of life concerns, tall grass, nuisance vehicles, and other zoning and code related issues. That's not to say, once it's there, we have the foundation, we can expand that as we see fit.
I just want to be real brief and again, not to take up the time because I know we're running late. For the longest time, Cleves has not enforced its ordinances. And
Zoning ordinances.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
Right,
apologize.
because,
Zoning
yeah,
ordinances. And
another
now that
discussion.
we're in a position that we have our planning and zoning commission and our appeals process, there has to be a means and mechanisms to be able to enforce that. The mayor's court is that last, I guess, clog in the wheel to, in my mind, make sure that the residents who feel that their quality of life is being degraded in some way, shape, or form, have a venue to prevent that. And this is a mechanism for that.
Right. I'm 100% on board with it. So.
Well, without this, we could tie up the municipal court system in Cincinnati or in the county, but that would be way more expensive.
And it will take a year or two just to
That
go
would
through.
be well beyond, because we would be seen as low on the totem pole, and our solicitors' cost just to be able to go down there, have it continued, delayed, whatever, is through the roof. So this is a cost savings matter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any special language you gotta use in this one?
Well, it's an ordinance, so you have to suspend the rule.
Yes, so, yeah, ordinance, 2024-6, we need to, vote to suspend the rules, and we'll have to have, 3 or 4 present, with 75%. Suspend the rules.
Make a motion that we
But
suspend.
we need to introduce it first and then we suspend the rules.
So Jay, we've gone over this. I think Rob had said we don't have to do that. I know that's what we've done for years, but I think Rob has said we don't have to do that.
I can read it if you'd like.
That's because one,
No, you're fine. An ordinance to fund the startup and operation of mayor's court, which will be the judicial branch of the village of Cleves for the enforcement of ordinances enacted by the legislative body.
You want to vote to
I'll
suspend the
make a
rules,
motion to suspend the rules.
and I'll second.
So Mr. Walters, made the motion, and it was seconded by Mrs. Bolton. Is there any further discussion on council?
The finance committee, by the way, has looked at this and recommended that it be moved forward.
Penny, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes,
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
All right, bringing on,
well, we suspended the rules.
Suspended the rules now.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
That's exactly.
I want to move on, I'm sorry.
I know you do, but, I make a motion to adopt.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? No discussion, Penny, would you call the roll?
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes,
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-0. Now we'll move on to the Morgan Creek cleanout project. Just for the residents to understand, if you haven't been down at Morgan Creek, it's filled up with silt. It is causing flooding of homes along Finley Street in particular.
and it is a blue line
Yes.
major street, right?
Yes. And so we are looking at doing this in-house, and the estimate is right around $36,000 to $40,000. The water department would be helping us because we're going to have to rent trucks. We're going to have to rent, I forget what the title is, it's a, no, it's not backhoe. It's an excavator.
It's a bigger piece of
Yeah, it's a
equipment than
bigger
that.
piece of equipment. Rusty Alexander will be operating that because he's licensed to do it. We really don't have a choice, okay, as far as the expenditures are concerned. I had made a proposal that we spread it out over 2 fiscal years, give us a little more opportunity. I was not at the last finance committee meeting. I don't know if there's other things I'm missing here, but I'd like to at least open it up to hear from our finance chair, what your discussion.
We asked John if it was feasible just to do it all at once, because while you're in there, why are we breaking it up into 2 years? And he said it also has to do with manpower, that he doing half of it, going half the way, would be over a 2-week project, and that to expect the waterworks to be able to take off a whole month. So it was his recommendation that due to manpower, that we do half of it and then half of it in like the spring of next year. So that's what his explanation was for why they aren't doing it all in one swoop, because of the time.
Any other questions from council?
I do think it has, the village paid to have it done many years ago. I think Dale, you did some research for me in, was it 2012 or 2014? And I remember I was clerk, and we used an outside contractor, I think. Johnny Cliff we used, yes. So it is something that we need to do every so often, because that creek does fill up with silt, and it takes the big equipment to get it out, so. And it is all coming down from up on the hill.
No doubt about it.
Looks like a waterfall sometimes. I don't know, has it ever overflowed its banks up there by where your dad lives, down at the bottom of Westgate Drive? Or does it overflow farther down?
No, back when they were doing the back part of the Coleman Woods, we did get a heavy rainfall one day, and it did, on North Miami, came out of the banks, and it was coming over the street and flooded everywhere from there
Okay.
west.
And it might have even been fairly clean at that time. We don't know that it was blockaged by silt or anything.
It was nowhere near as bad at that time as it is now.
Right. Okay. So what do you need from us?
Well, we have a This is the ordinance number 7. It's in your packet.
Do we need an ordinance or is it just a motion to,
Well, it's going over.
Pay the money.
It's going over 2 years. The resolution is supposed to be, I believe, it's a temporary thing. So I think it's an ordinance so that you don't have to re-adopt it next year.
I thought we just could make the motion to have it done and approve the spending of the money.
I reached out to Rob yesterday and I asked him which way he wanted to go with. He felt most comfortable making the ordinance since it was spread out over the week.
Okay, so we have to suspend the rules on this as well.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only, ordinance number 7, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion was made by Mr. Bolton to suspend the rules and read by title only, seconded by Ms. Meister. Is there any further discussion on council? No discussion? Betty, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
All right. It says resolution.
I'll make the motion to adopt
Okay.
I'll second.
ordinance number 7, 2024.
I keep forgetting that part. I apologize.
We're not gonna let you forget.
Oh, I know you are. Tired. So we have a motion by, who made the first motion? Is that-
Linda.
Seconded by Ms. Meister. Any further discussion? Then call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
All right, so we've got 2 more things to do. And quite frankly, in reviewing the ordinances on both the zoning commission and for the board of public appeals, I can appoint, we have appointed, the only problem is the legislative body did not approve. And I think number 15, then it comes, you have two separate ones. You talked with Rob about this, so. Yes. Why don't you explain?
Yes, so this is a resolution to approve the zoning commission appointees that were appointed on for various times. So this resolution is to approve the appointment of Ms. Nancy Nichols, who's serving a term of 4 months, that commencing the 14th of August, 2024, and will continue through December 31st of 2024. Mr. Mark Talon, serving a term of 5 months that commenced on the 10th day of July, 2024.
Well, right now, he's got all of these done as separate resolutions.
Yes, he said that we could vote once to confirm all.
Oh, you're sure?
That's what I was.
Okay. Hey, that's great. That's great.
The 10th day of July, 2024, expiring December 31. And Mr. Chad Hinton, serving a term of 5 months, commencing the 10th day of July, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. Is it stated to you, Ms. Golden? My understanding from Mr. Merkel is we can vote once to approve the appointment of the entire commission.
Yeah, they've already been sworn in.
Yes.
So we're just getting the
We're just
legislative,
approving
the documentation. We're just getting the documentation.
It's like 4 months, 5 months, why not just like a 2-year term or something like this?
You have to scatter it. So
Well,
they're
I mean,
not
yeah,
all
we
up
have
at the same time.
Well, I mean, we got 4, 5, 5. Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah, but if we all have 1 year, so why not? For a lengthier time, I'm just asking.
So, I think just to make it clean, most appointments will renew at the first of the year.
No
Now, so we'll reapprove this next year or readdress it to approve next year. The appeals board will be a little bit different. They do have staggered.
So are we grouping the zoning commission appointees together, one motion, and then doing the appeals board appointees in the second motion, or we do it all?
We
all of
have
them
to-
together?
because the terms expire.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution 24, 2024, 25, 2024, and 26, 2024, confirming the appointments of Nancy Nichols, Mark Talon, and Chad Hinton to the zoning commission appointees.
24, 25, and 26.
Yes.
Motion was made by Ms. Meister. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Bolton. Is there any further discussion? Can you call the roll?
Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Since you had the conversation with Rob and I did,
Yes.
I'd like you to take care of the last part of this. Or the zoning appeal.
So we're looking at resolution approving the zoning appeal board appointees. Judy Melchian, Ted Babel, Sylvia Strigari, and Don Richardson. That is resolution 2024, 27, 28, 29, and 30.
So moved.
Second.
And we're doing
To
it all
adopt
at
these
once.
resolutions.
That's what I'm going back to.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Council has any issue with that, we can go through it.
So,
Separately.
just so I understand, that's why I said I didn't have this conversation. I'm trying to follow this myself. Who made the motion, first of all?
Linda, motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Linda, who seconded? Jerry, Ms. Meister seconded. Is there any further discussion by council? If there's no discussion, have you call the roll?
Mr. Burns. Mr. Walters.
Think about this. Yes, please.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms. Meister.
Yes.
Now I have one other thing I want to bring up before we adjourn.
Well, let me, motion passes 4-0. Go ahead.
In the past, we talked about when we open up public session for residents to speak, that they come up, stand at the podium, identify themselves, give their address. We didn't do that tonight. And from my personal standpoint, I don't like being shouted at. I think we should keep discussions in a professional manner and have someone standing there. You give, we want to hear everybody. We want to hear what everybody has to say. But it kind of, I felt it got a little out of hand. I would like to have a more organized type system in the future. I don't know how everybody else feels, but
The only thing and I'll say this privately afterwards, there were some reasons why I didn't have today.
well,
I'll go one further. Let's have them sign in to speak, and then they come up to speak, and the galley can listen, and those who are on the list speak.
I'm good with that.
yeah. I just think we need to have an organized way so that we can stay on task. We can do the official business of council and at the same time hear what residents have to say.
We'll make sure that's not ready to go next.
Thank you.
As part of that process, I would suggest having a timer available. Like, park limits are hopefully not necessary, but if you say everybody has 3 minutes to speak and it's been 8 minutes, we need a mechanism to say, yeah, we have business to conduct.
We'll write that up and I'll make sure it's ready to go there.
I also have a question on some old business regarding the sale of the weapons. We discussed at the last meeting that would be put out to bid. Has that been done yet?
It has not been put out to bid yet. Okay, you're talking about the actual weapons, it's not the radios.
Right, yeah, okay. I just wanted to see if that had happened yet.
Any other questions from council? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Walters makes a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, come on, Kevin.
All right.
We need to give him an opportunity, Sherry.
By Ms. Meister, I'm sure we want to discuss this. No, we don't. Okay.
Who's up for staying?
Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Burns. Mr. Walters.
I'm thinking about it, yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Ms.
Motion
Meister.
passes 4-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
No, doesn't take you jumping on it. You should sit back.
Are you telling me